7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Welcome back to another edition of the Vegas Squares podcast. We are here back in studio, myself and the Tonys, and it's time to pick week 2 in college football. Token, you've been AWOL for God knows how long. What has life been doing to you?
Well, during the summer, of course, it was busy, but it's been a wild one for sure.
Riveting.
Wow. Yeah. No,
Am I going to find some dead hookers in a ditch or in your
no,
trunk?
No. None of that.
Like bags of cocaine residue in your glove compartment?
No, none of that.
So, well, since you weren't around for week 1 or subsequently week 0 of college football, has college football treated you well yet?
It's been all right. The first 2 games I've got in and had some winning tickets on those, including the Rainbow Warriors winning outright at plus 330, so that game was pretty good. And then some as well during the last week game, too, with Fresno State. That was probably my big game that I had on the book last week. Some losers in there, too, but...
Yeah, Fresno State with that, I mean, we'll talk about some observations here, but Fresno State looked like they were going to get run out of the gym, and then with the QB1 for USC going down, it kind of brought them back in for a backdoor cover.
Yeah, that was a nice win, and I also had some in-game on that.
Was it a nice win? Because you kind of got lucky. But that's all you take.
It's a winning ticket.
Yeah, the ticket cash is lucky or not. So, all right, well, we appreciate you listening in. We want to thank the sponsors here real quick. Obviously, first and foremost, 12-Ounce Sports for putting us on, 2 days a week. Actually, we're on 3 days a week, but we're on like a total of 4 times, which is kind of cool. We're on Friday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern. Saturday mornings, I probably should have had this in front of me. We're on Saturday mornings before the college football games, and we're on Sunday mornings before the NFL games. Look up the times on 12-Ounce Sports. Look at the weekly schedule. Also want to thank some more other sponsors. We have Seat Giant. You can use promo code 12-Ounce Sports for discounted tickets to sporting events, concerts, and more. And also Thrive Fantasy. Use promo code 12-Ounce Sports. Basically, this is anyone who is excited and interested and focused on daily fantasy sports. So I have to check that site out. We just got that sponsor as far as with 12-Ounce. But use promo code 12-Ounce Sports to get started today. And if anybody else wants to sponsor us, we need some good sponsors. We need to get somebody bring us pizza every week when we record.
Pizza.
We need Little Caesars hot and ready, to bring 4 or 5 $5 pizzas. Bring it here.
Those are your Detroit boys there.
Yeah, what's up,
Figured
dude?
you'd be representing.
Token, you're fucking slacking. Come on, man.
Yeah, let me talk to the Illages.
The who? Oh, the Illages. Well, Mike is probably hard to reach at this point.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of reception.
Busy with hockey.
Not a lot of reception 6 feet underground. Didn't he die 2 years ago?
A year and a half or something now.
Okay, sorry, a year and a half.
Something like that.
Not a lot of cell phone service 6 feet under. So, all right, well, it's week 2 in college football. We're going to give you our picks. We got leans, likes, and bets. We have the politician, Mr. Tony Johnson, over here. He doesn't really give you anything concrete, but he's going to give you his
information, though.
He gives you. Well, I was getting there, dude. He's giving you information to help you make an informed decision. Tony Johnson, I'll start with you. Week 1 is in the books. Observations, thoughts, bets you wish you could have had back, other than Arizona and Hawaii, but that was week 0.
Yeah, I only made 3 total wagers and only 1 on Saturday last week. It was one of those. I'm starting to sort of get a better feel for what makes the most sense. And in week 1, with so many coaching changes, I felt like it was best to kind of sit on the sidelines, watch the games, and really study what's going on, just because I thought there was a lot of unknown. And the one wager I had on Saturday was a really unlucky loss. So I feel really good about what happened. At least in the betting perspective now, in regards to observations of gameplay. The one thing I'll note, I looked back and looked at a lot of the play-by-plays and things like that, and the amount of fumbling that went on last week in a lot of these games was
interesting.
astronomical.
Jesus Christ!
Yeah, it was pretty insane. Like even the teams that you'd expect that are going to be, the well-coached teams that are solid, like Stanford and Northwestern, for example, which are two of maybe the better coaches in the country. Each team fumbled the ball 3 times in that game. So,
Let alone that Louisville game.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
the thing is though, coaches aren't carrying the rock, though. I mean, fumbles can happen.
yeah, I understand. It's just, and I think there's a couple reasons for this. This certainly a byproduct of a lot of the designs of plays and offenses and all of the RPO sets and things like that. There's just a lot more of the ball that's just not. It's being thrown around and or not kept in a way where I think some of these teams, as we go forward this season, will look upon this and really, really cut down on turnovers, because the turnovers were a killer for many, many teams this week. In fact, I think there were a few teams that are very undervalued this week and maybe a little bit going forward just because they did turn the ball over 4 times last week, and it's really the only reason they lost the game. So, but I think Virginia Tech's a great example of this, too. They were the better team last week, but they turned it over 4 or 5 times, and so that's why they lost. So, yeah, that's pretty much what I saw. I saw a lot of turnovers. The numbers bear that out, too. It was the second most turnovers in a week 1 the last 10 years in college football. So,
Seems like kids are going for that highlight reel in week 1.
Yeah, there could very well be that, too. So
they'll learn quick when they're riding pine in the second half.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, we'll see a lot. I think I'm going to bring this up a couple more times as we go forward, that I feel like there's been too much of an adjustment based on 1 week with some of these lines this week, and I think there's actually some sides. Usually I'm a total guy, as you know, especially unders, but I think there's some sides that are outright wrong this week, so it's good.
Interesting. Maybe we'll have some picks from Tony Johnson this week.
Maybe a couple lanes at least.
Yeah, at least a hard lean.
You guys are great. That's awesome.
Token, observations, and just thoughts overall about week 0 and week 1, since you weren't here for week 0 either.
Yeah,
I'll keep rubbing. I'll keep needling with that.
Kind of similar to what fake Token, as Spike would say, was talking about. A lot of sloppy football, a lot of getting.
Damn, I take a shot at him, he takes a shot at you. This works.
Getting changes at new coordinators, if not new coaches, even, and a lot of turnovers in key spots, especially by some big games and all that. Like,
speaking of new coordinators, I mean, how in the fuck does Kendall Briles just shut down the second half against Boise State? I mean,
I think it was whiskey time for him.
I just don't understand it. I mean, he had everything he did well against Boise in the first half. He literally was just like, scratch that from the playbook. I mean, there's 3rd and 8 and they're running draws. 4th and 7 and they're running swing. It was awful. It was just, I really hope that they can get it together against Louisiana Monroe.
I think they will.
They should,
Yeah.
but
I've been on the fence with Taggart, unwilling to really make a definitive for or against him. But this one, I have a hard lean on firing him at this point.
fire them all.
But it's only 1 week in the book, so let's hope he can fire them all. I remember that. That was good. So, all right. Well, let's start. This is Saturday. We'll start with the Saturday games, obviously. The earliest game we have is an 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time start, 8 a.m. here on the West Coast. So I will probably just be getting up for that one. We have Ohio facing Pitt. And I know this is an interesting game because Pitt, for as average and mundane as they looked last year, and obviously in the first game this year, they are the defending ACC Coastal Conference champions, for whatever that means.
Yeah, and they had
not saying too much, but
they had that locked up with like a week to go,
Yeah.
or so. It was pretty impressive. And it's interesting. They won that Coastal side and yet fired their offensive coordinator later on. So it goes to show you, I think, that Pitt realizes that while that was, they're happy to be in the conference championship. Certainly, they still have a long way to go. And
Sure.
and Pat Narduzzi, the head coach there, has never been an offensive guy at all. So I think bringing in someone that can really take over an offense, has head coaching experience in Mark Whipple from UMass over the last few years, I think is a really, really smart hire and a really good hire, and he's a great offensive mind. And I think the direction that they're going, which is they had a bunch of 3 and 4 wide receiver sets that we saw last week against Virginia. They move the quarterback around a lot. I've not been the biggest fan of Pickett throughout his career there, but I think the added movement and giving him a little bit more space to work and throw outside the pocket. While it may not be good for his career at the next level if he was to do that, I think for them winning games, it makes a lot of sense. So I think that we'll see Pitt develop as the year goes on and become a much better team, especially offensively. Again, these new coordinators that Token brought up, I think this is one of those perfect examples where we're going to be a little bit overdone here with what we saw from Pitt. They played a very good Virginia team last week, and I think we've gone
held their own for a little bit of the game too.
Sure, and they're still a good team. The problem is they're playing what many believe is the best team in the MAC, and I can't really disagree with that. And Ohio is another very, very well coached team.
They've been that way for a few
long
years
time.
now. Yeah,
they have, and they certainly have the best player in the field with Nathan Rourke, who will definitely be drafted, I think, at the next level. I'm not sure what position he'll play, but I mean, he's an absolute stud as a quarterback, and the fact that he matriculated to Ohio and not a Power 5 school says quite a bit. I think for what Frank Solich can do and how well he can recruit at that school. So, yeah, I mean, I like what Ohio is doing. Also on both sides of the ball, they have improved defensively, it looks like a little bit this year, too. They had a lot more talent come in this offseason, and then watching a little bit last week, they did look a little bit better there. So this line moved a lot. It opened around 6. I noted on my sheet here, and I didn't bet it
around
then.
4 at this point.
And yeah, now we're down to 4. So for me,
we've got a total where we had a 53.5.
Yeah, so for me, it's a shocker here. It is a hands-off game, but only because I missed the best number. Yeah, and I just don't like to bet bad numbers. So, but again, if I had to make a pick, or one of our leans that we like to talk about, certainly I would lean Ohio because I do think they are the better team here at this juncture. If this was week 9 or week 10. Whatever the line would be different, certainly, but I think Pitt is going to be definitely the better team by that point. But for right now, I do like Ohio.
Token P5, G5. Like you said, Ohio's been kind of a giant slayer. I mean, they beat Kansas a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But, it's still that philosophy, the P5 versus the G5. Normally, no matter what state of mind that the P5 is in, they're supposed to win these kind of games.
Yeah, I mean, the MAC's not a bad conference or anything, and they're not the best of the Group of 5, but they're towards the top of the Group of 5. So, this one I like Pitt. I like them at 6. I really like them at 4. I think I'm going to book this one.
It's booking Pitt. We got an opposite side of the fence here, even though Tony Johnson didn't make an official pick.
I haven't booked it, yes, so.
I actually have a lean on this play, too. If I had to make a bet on this game, I would actually probably take Ohio on the money line. 4 points to me. This game's going to be close. I'll take my chances with just give the 4 back, and I'd probably lay the money line with Ohio.
Should be a great game to watch, though. On a serious note, I'm not even joking wise. This is the first game of the day, but I think I like both teams a lot going forward. So.
It's fair, yeah.
Wake up, poop up Ohio and Pitt and a cup of coffee.
Maybe you need to wake up right now, bro. Yeah. All right, so a game that doesn't. I mean, it sounds great in theory because of the two teams and because of the two schools, but the way that both these teams performed last week feels like a yawn fest. Both teams, won barely, one lost to a team they probably shouldn't have lost to. We got West Virginia and Missouri. The line's currently Missouri by 2 touchdowns, and we saw Kelly Bryant and his new digs. But they did not. They unfortunately came up short against Wyoming, a game that no one thought would happen the way it did. West Virginia struggled against James Madison, but let's face it, the cupboard's pretty bare. Dana Holgerson left almost nothing at West Virginia. So we have 14.5 right now. The over/under is 62.5 as it currently stands as we read this. Kelly Bryant looked great against the Wyoming defense. Could he do more of the same against West Virginia?
Certainly. I think West Virginia is a definitely worse defense than Wyoming, and that's saying something. Group of 5 / Power 5.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think so. And that was another game where we're going to talk about even more so, I think, as this goes on, that Missouri just gave away that game with turnovers late. I mean, they turned the ball over 3 times in the second half, twice in the fourth quarter. And one of them, Bryant, was a little bit loose with the football while escaping the pocket. And it's just, I mean, stuff that's inexcusable. And, you can't be losing to Wyoming on the road like that. I was pretty shocked by that, too, as well. West Virginia, it's hard to read a lot in the last week's game because JMU is still a very good team. There's no question that is one of the better FCS teams. So that spread was under 10 points for a reason there, certainly. However, all that being said, I do think that West Virginia is the worst team in the Big 12. They might be slightly better than Kansas. I'm not quite sure, but they are definitely a step below in all facets of Missouri. So this line makes a lot of sense to me. When I looked at this game before I looked at the lines, I set the number at 14 with my own rankings. So, I mean, it is what it is in that sense. I don't really have much of a lean here. I know you don't like that, but because the line to me,
it's okay. You don't have to lean
sense
on every game.
I know. I understand that. I'm just saying. I think the line is where it should be. West Virginia is in a clear rebuilding phase. I mean, I love Neil Brown, and I think he'll be very, very good here for years to come. But this is just totally different schemes on both sides of the ball. They have a different. Totally different setup on defense now. It's a 3-4 defense, and so it's going to take a long time for West Virginia.
Yeah, I like West Virginia in this matchup for sure. Plus the 14, and even the over. I think if Missouri is able to minimize the turnovers in this one, they put up some good scoring for sure in this one, back and forth.
Yeah, part of me liked to look at the over in this spot just because of more probably so history than necessarily the current states of the program right now. But the running games on both of these teams are just god-awful. And I understand the running game effectively chews more clock, but sometimes you need the running game to open up the pass. I don't think Kelly Bryant's going to have too much of a problem putting up numbers. I wonder about Austin Kendall. The question is defense. Do we trust a Missouri defense to play any kind of it? Although I do believe West Virginia's defense is what's going to keep them in games against some of these Big 12 offenses. Maybe not the Oklahomas, but maybe the TCUs, the Kansas States, and stuff like that. You're right.
Mediocres, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. They may be the worst team on paper, Tony. But I wonder if that defense may be able to keep them necessarily in games. That being said, I'm not betting it, but I have a slight lean toward the over in this spot because I feel like Missouri could put up 42 to 45 points. Mm-hmm. And West Virginia's probably good for 21. Yeah. I mean, I want to like Austin Kendall. You spoke highly of Austin Kendall.
I do like Austin Kendall, yes. It's just going to take some time. That's all. I think he'll be
development
quite good.
opportunities.
Yeah, for sure. No, I like him a lot, too. I still like him. It's just this is a totally different offense that he was playing at in Oklahoma, and this is just going to take time. It's just going to take time. That's all I can say.
Yeah, no official bet, but I think we're looking at something like we're looking at something like 48-20 or something like that. And that would obviously give you Missouri, but I'm not sure if I trust the fact that maybe Austin Kendall only needed 1 week to get it going, as you say.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, well, let's look at Syracuse and Maryland. Maryland last week put up a 79 spot on who the fuck did they play? Howard, that's right. And Cam Newton's little brother.
Yeah, Howard beat UNLV last year.
Yeah, I remember that.
Howard's a good FCS team. That was a
not last week they weren't.
Well, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I actually liked Howard at plus 31.5. That went out the window in like the second quarter.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, we got Syracuse against Maryland here in this matchup. Maryland has moved from a dog to a favorite.
Oh yeah.
2.5 point home dog to a 1.5 point current favorite. Total at 58.5. Syracuse had no trouble with Liberty, it seemed, last week. And Maryland, obviously, we know, had no trouble with Howard. But this game is kind of interesting. Is Maryland better than last year? Take this 79-0 thrashing out. Has Maryland gotten better?
I would think so. I mean, I think they have more speed, even on defense. They're a little better, and I think they developed pretty well. They're not great, but they're much better than last year, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with that. The one difference I think that might be the biggest one is it looks like they're finally behind all the turmoil, all that personal stuff from last year, the untimely and unfortunate death as well from a player, and all the stuff, all the fallout from that. I think that they've really turned the page, it seems like to me, and the program is moving in the right direction, and we haven't even heard really anything negative from that program for many months now. So to me, that's probably more of what it is. They've actually recruited well the last couple of years. Even DJ Durkin recruited quite well before he left, and Mike Loxley has continued that. In fact, he brought over a couple of people from Alabama, and then signed a 4-star like 2 months ago that is already that he just barely got into fall camp, and he's playing as well as a true freshman. So yeah, I mean he's recruited actually quite well there. So I think, interestingly enough, they have quite a bit more talent than Syracuse across the board. But the issue here to me is, as always, the difference in these two coaches and what Dino Babers can do at Syracuse. I mean, he is an absolute wizard. So it's just.
Well, I mean, and speaking of Syracuse, we were high last year on Tommy DeVito, and every time he stepped on the field, it didn't look really well for him, including last week.
Yep.
So he's got to turn a corner here. 2 picks against Liberty, 17, less than 50% passing, less than 200 yards, and a 24-0 shutout, which maybe they didn't have to expel energy, but this doesn't look good against a team like that. Coming in against a team like Maryland, who, is probably riding high on the fact that I thought it was kind of cool. What was the name of the kid that died? McNeil?
Something like
that. He wore 79 in college, and they put up 79. I'm sure they didn't do it on purpose,
wow.
But it just kind of happened to fall that way.
That's pretty interesting. Yeah.
But apparently a lot of their players and staff tweeted that they did it for him. Call it what you want.
There you go.
But maybe they could ride that. They weren't able talent wise to ride it last year, but especially in non-conference play, they may be able to use that as motivation to be effective here, because this used to be an ACC tilt, and now it's not anymore. That being said, I will go out and start this with the pick. I don't have an official pick, but I am going to say that this is an overplay for me. I think both teams are going to put up a ton of points. I think we're looking at both teams in the high 30s, early 40s. We got a 58.5. I'm thinking somewhere 38. 41-38, something like that. I don't know who's going to win. I think it's going to be a last man standing kind of thing.
Yeah, not much for me here. It's interesting you bring up Tommy DeVito.
But I do like Cuse to win, actually. If I had to pick,
sure.
If I had to pick, I like Cuse to win.
Yeah, especially getting points now. That is pretty amazing. But I think there's a chance that Tommy DeVito is on a relatively short leash as this season progresses. They picked up the number 3 overall pro-style quarterback named David Summers last year, and it's said that he's not going to redshirt and he is ready to play whenever they deem fit. And I think Syracuse believes this team is good enough to play for a conference championship, and they are very, very high on this club. So my guess is if DeVito continues to play like he had, and he did make some outright mistakes himself last week, I do think that they will make a change at some point to the freshman, which is really interesting to look at. This dude is a beast. He's a massive, 6'7", 6'8" quarterback with a rocket arm. It should be a lot of fun to watch. He's a Southern guy, too, that matriculated to Syracuse, so pretty impressive stuff there. But getting back to the game, I'm surprised this line has moved as much as it has. I felt it opened a little high for Syracuse. I would have had it closer to a pick or Syracuse -1 or something like that. But, to me, I think Syracuse is still the better team here. If I had to bet it here, I don't really have much. Again, I just think it's too close to call. But Syracuse would be my lean here if I had to pick one.
Yeah, for me, give me the orange and don't go skimping on me now.
Wow, what a bad Vegas vacation reference.
No, that's okay.
And I think it's, give me some of that yellow and don't you go cheap on me.
Yeah, okay.
It is. It's my little twist on it.
But the question that does scare me, and I'm still on Q's despite this, is they got Clemson next week. And that's an interesting conundrum to this. Because, not that I'm going to debate that they're overlooking Maryland, because they're no slouch either, especially after hanging 79 points up last week. I don't care who you play, 79 points, a lot of points. But is there a chance that they are
looking towards
not
next week.
worried about Maryland as much because the fact that, I mean, let's face it, in these P5 situations, winning your conference, with one loss, even if it is to Maryland, could get you in the playoff discussion.
It's true. It is entirely possible.
So I still probably am on cue because maybe they want to put out a good showing. Who knows? We'll see. It's going to be an interesting matchup anyways, regardless, because I think Maryland, like you said, may have gotten a little better than they were. Last year, they seemed to play with all heart. I mean, especially when they took Ohio State to the brink. But they just didn't seem to have enough in the talent department. A game I'll let Tony Johnson take care of here because this seems to be right up his alley. Rutgers and Iowa.
100%.
Yes,
absolutely.
Iowa is sitting at 19.5. You're maybe, I don't know if you're high on Rutgers, but you're probably higher than most.
Yes.
Total 49, which seems to be a standard Iowa total. Mm-hmm. Low 40s in the college football world, maybe just under 50. What do you see in this matchup that makes you feel one way or the other?
Yeah, for sure. I do have a play on this game. It's already been in. Yeah, so this is a good one here. I do like these kind of run-of-the-mill, grind it out, Big Ten type of games. This is absolutely the wheelhouse. Although I'm going to do something different than I normally do with the bet, which is also kind of a little bit of fun. But I really like what Rutgers has done, not only in the offseason in what it looks like prep, but in what they showed last week. This team, and I understand that they played another weak opponent, but the dual running back offense that they are going to employ, I think, for the majority of the plays here with Pacheco now, who looks like an absolute battering ram as a running back alongside Blackshear, I think is going to give some teams some problems. They are very, very quick along the edge, despite being big, and I don't think there's a lot of Big Ten teams, Iowa sort of included in this, that are going to be able to contain these two guys when they get the ball with some space. I'm not saying that Rutgers is now contending for conference titles, not even close. They are still going to be a bad team. I just think that finally Chris Ash has made some forward steps here offensively, which is his, he is an offensive guy, to really get Rutgers back into play. Defensively, they are still going to struggle. I think, their DBs and their outside linebackers are just, there is just no talent there still. I mean, they still can't really recruit on the outside, and it's just, it is a problem. So, my play here is very, very clear in this game. The total opened up at around 50.5 or 51, and I got a little lucky. I accidentally kind of waited on this, and it's now down to, I think, 49.5.
I got 49 here.
49, okay, yeah. So I did pick it up at 49.5, and I really like the over in this game. So I think this one has a potential to where both teams can put up something in the 30s themselves. Now, I'm not quite sure how long Rutgers can stay in the game per se. I'm not saying that they're going to, make this a certainly a close game. But I also liked what we saw from Iowa last week. I know they kind of just phoned it in against Miami of Ohio and sort of didn't show a lot, but they've really taken the next step offensively. This all started last year, and even last year in conference, they played 6 games that would have went over this total last year. Total scores in these 6 games: 79 against Minnesota, 58 against Indiana, 54 Penn State, 74 Purdue, 63 Illinois, 59
But they have
Nebraska.
they have that mantra of a low-scoring game team.
They do, but it's not really true anymore.
No,
yeah, exactly.
I understand that.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
so
They have that mantra. You start to get what this program does, and
Yes.
you forget, these guys are cycling.
Yes.
And good coaches adapt to their players, and Kirk Ferentz is definitely one of them.
He is, and his kid, Brian, I believe, has really transformed this offense. And it's, I think that Iowa is much more of an offensive team, and Stanley is a hell of a quarterback over there. I think he's an incredibly underrated quarterback. So I like the over here, and
252 and 3 touchdowns last week.
Yeah, definitely a play for me.
Give me Rutgers on this one. I think they lose by about a touchdown, maybe a 10-point loss or something around there. I think they do cover the 19.5 pretty handily. If you were saying with the dual run game, I think that just confuses the defense, makes them make the mistakes and get them on their heels and all that.
We should come up with something like we can trademark, like a two-team Tony parlay or something.
Ooh.
Rutgers in the over.
Rutgers in the over. Okay, I could play that.
That might be interesting. Yeah, I've called it the two-team Tony, sponsored by Totino's Pizza. Or don't they have Tony's Pizza?
There is a Tony's
It's
Pizza.
like even cheaper than the Totino's.
Tony's Pizza is a cheap.
There's a Tony's Mexican place by me now.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe you should maybe stop in and see if they can sponsor
Cerveza?
your two. What the fuck, Cerveza? No, stop in and see if they'll sponsor the two-team Tony parlay. We should have one of those every week.
Oh,
What the hell was that?
I don't know.
Are there rodents in the
I
studio?
have no idea. I just looked over.
Some strange
I
sounds.
have no clue. Okay.
So, all right, well, let's disregard the rats crawling through the attic here. And move on to an interesting game, because I would love to be a person who walked down the strip with like a camera, like actually just sit at sports books with a camera, and anybody who's betting this game, I want to hear what side they're on and why, because both teams looked last week, and against teams that they shouldn't have looked last week against, and we still have a 3-touchdown plus spread in the big house, Army and Michigan. We've got a 22.5 in favor of Michigan, opened up at 23. Total's 48, and again, Army's one of those teams. We don't think they can score, but they've been able to put up some points from time to time. This one, to me, seems like, like I said, I just want to sit in the book. I want no part of this game. I don't even know if I want to watch this game. It seems like it might be an interesting
You
game.
just want to watch reactions.
I just want to see. It's you said it one time last year. I want to interview people and find out why. I'm cool with whatever side you're on, but why?
Nice. I'm glad I'm here because I have a side. I've already made the wager, too. This
Perfect.
is
We
great.
got one.
Excellent. And surprisingly enough, I am on a favorite here. I actually love Michigan in this spot, and I think there's a lot of good reasons for it. So I will expound on this. So, first off, Michigan is another team that hired a coordinator in the offseason, and we are going to see some big offensive changes as this thing goes forward. I think, like LSU, they're really going to open it up and use a lot more receivers, and it's going to look a little bit different. But unlike LSU, they did not show a lot of that last week. It was a very, very, very vanilla game plan. They did not come out fully ready to go, and I think we're going to see a bit of a different Michigan team this week against Army. There is absolutely no chance that they take Army lightly. This is last year was a wake-up call for a lot of teams, and I keep hearing this comparison with you remember the Oklahoma game last week? Why would you want to lay this many points? Well, first of all, Oklahoma doesn't have 1/10 the defense that Michigan has, and secondly, that's last year, and teams understand how good Army can be. So that's, I think, my second point is that I think Michigan is going to come in here really, really ready to go, and there are no answers to what Michigan can do offensively at all. Army. It looks like Army's defense. They did lose 3 or 4 guys, pretty important players. The top 2 or 3 tacklers from last year are now gone, and to me, they just look. Now, give Rice a lot of credit. Last week, they did, I think, play a really good game, and they were impressive. However, I do think Army is going to take a bit of a step back this year, and a step back for Army against a very, very good team on both sides of the ball spells a lot of trouble.
Do we see a little bit less of the dual quarterback? Do we see more Shea Patterson than Dylan McCaffrey, or are we going to get a little bit of both?
I think we'll still get a little bit of both, but my guess is that it'll be much more patterned. We might not even see McCaffrey until the second half.
Okay.
Would be my guess. So, but yeah, I do think we'll still see both. There's a lot of people that think McCaffrey could very well be the better player almost at this point. I'm not in that camp.
Consistently, I think Patterson's the better, though.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think I'm in that camp either.
Yeah, so and especially throwing the ball, I'm just not sure what we're going to get from McCaffrey. Yeah, exactly. But
Do we get a spot where Michigan could put the total up by themselves?
yes,
Wow.
yes, I do. I do think that Michigan can put up like 50-something points here, which is
And Army might score like 10 or 14.
And it's
They
games like this where people have that still recollection of Army Oklahoma, to where
yes,
if Michigan is able to throttle Army like some of us expect, this is where Michigan starts getting that September hype, and Harbaugh gets all that love.
especially at
and,
the big house, yeah.
well, not even just that. It's just the fact that, like, Michigan, every year it seems Michigan, they have 2 hurdles they have to get over, is Ohio State, and subsequently, if they get there, a Big 10 championship. And they've been able to do neither so far since Harbaugh's been there.
Or sometimes even Michigan State.
Sure.
true.
But in September, they're 16-2 since Harbaugh's been there. So this is where the early season hype kind of comes from. So
starts rolling them.
You're right. I mean, we have a big blowout here. Something 48-14, and you're looking at
Over's good, and Michigan covers.
You're looking at the hype train again, the Harbaugh hype train.
Yes. And the reason I'm not on the over here is that there is a fear that Army cannot put any points on the board. And that is my fear here. That is 35 to 3 or something. And I would not be shocked if there's a score like that at all. So that's, again, I think the over is the play if you have to make one. To me, this number is it's a very...
Even the worst teams in college football, it's hard to really get shut out. I mean, unless you're an FCS school. Yeah, I mean, but you're right. I think if you're calling for 5 or 6 touchdowns out of Michigan, really the over's the play in that spot. All right, well, let's move forward to another matchup in this hour of games, and it may not be a sexy matchup, but it's an interesting one. At least I know that you probably would like this again. Purdue and Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt traveling to West Lafayette. Both teams are 0-1. However, Purdue was involved in a very, very wild game against Nevada last week with a last-second, 58-yard field goal to win it by a true fresh. So,
yeah.
But in that game, Elijah Sindelar looked really, really good. But threw 2 interceptions.
At times, yes. I mean, I agreed to a point. Throwing for over 400 yards is very good. But however, he was sort of Sindelar that we've seen the last couple of years. He's got all the physical tools you would really want, but it's sort of the brain farts that creep in all the time, and he tries to force balls, and he thinks he's some sort of god, and it just doesn't work. So I do think his numbers are going to be very much inflated this year because of Rondale Moore and some of the other guys that are on the outside. They have a lot of talent on this team on offense, but this is a tough game. This is a really, really tough game. I don't have a play on this one, but Vanderbilt is just renowned for keeping games
close. The line's
close.
Purdue by a touchdown.
Yeah.
It's actually coming down.
It's tough. Now, Vanderbilt facing Georgia last week is understandable to get blown out in that game. Georgia is a top 3 or 4 team.
Right.
This game is a little bit different. I think there'll be some easier sledding for Vanderbilt on offense, and I think it'll be a close game. But if I had to lean on this one, I would take Vanderbilt with the points. I just don't know. I don't know how Purdue's going to respond. That's the one thing about this is that they had that game in hand as well and gave it away in the fourth quarter.
And that's the thing. You just paid Jeff Brom all this money to be losing these kind of games. Look, Vanderbilt's an SEC school. Okay, cool. But they're still a bottom feeder SEC school.
Oh, they are, for sure.
You get them at home, you can't lose this game.
No, you can't.
You may not cover, but you can't lose this game.
I just don't know how they're going to respond fully.
I think Purdue shows up and actually does cover and wins by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, see, I think that's entirely plausible, too. Yeah. Couldn't disagree with that.
They keep the lead and then put pressure on Vandy. And
I'm actually with Token on this one. I think just the sheer, will. I almost wonder if a game like that against Nevada is embarrassing.
Well, for sure it is, but
no slouch. Nevada's no slouch.
No,
and you really didn't have to take that game, but you almost, maybe shouldn't have lost a couple of key situations here and there, and you find yourself 0-1. To find yourself 0-2, even though despite the fact that you haven't entered conference play yet, which let's face it, Purdue's not winning the conference.
Middle
to go down to Nevada and Vandy is not a really good start in Jeff Brom's, to his extension, I guess you could say.
Fair point, yeah.
So, all right, well, this is the game I'm most looking forward to. Coming up Saturday is Cincinnati at Ohio State. Luke Fickell coaching against his old team when he was, defensive coordinator there, I believe. Mm-hmm. The line is Ohio State minus 16 currently. The line over-under is 53, came down from 55 as the open. Saw a stat on Twitter in Ohio State's history, and I'm talking a very long history. They have only lost to a team in Ohio once, and that was in 1921. Can you guess the team they lost to?
University of Ohio?
No.
I'll go with Bowling Green.
I'll give you another hint. The team doesn't even have a football team. This school doesn't even have a football team anymore.
Oh, okay. I give up.
No idea. Cleveland State. I don't know.
Oberlin College.
Oh, okay.
That's a music school.
Cleveland State, I think, has football.
They may, but point
I know basketball's their strong suit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's not go down that rabbit hole. Anyways,
Sadly, I know that.
It's been a long time, and obviously we know Ohio State has the talent, the better talent in this game. The question is, you'd say, Justin Fields is kind of your guy. Mm-hmm. But Cincinnati is one of the teams that a lot of people are looking, forward to seeing later on in the year, especially in American Conference play. Do they stand a chance against Ohio State?
I think they do. I think this is a huge game for this program and for just in general. I think there's a lot of really bright people out there that believe that Cincinnati is not very far behind Ohio State right now in regards to quality of team on the field, talent-wise, everything top to bottom. I'm not necessarily sure I'm in that camp, but I do know that, Luke Fickell is an Ohio State guy, in and out. He played there, he coached there for many years. He was the interim head coach before they hired, Urban Meyer, and then went back to being a coordinator. Mm-hmm. He is enthralled in Ohio State. He never said anything negative, about them since leaving. He is a guy, he's been positive in the press conferences this week. I've paid very close attention to what both coaches have said this week. I want to see if there was anything to garner, and it's been a love fest from both of them, really, in regards to each other. So, which, rightfully so. I think Cincinnati is one of the better group of 5 teams out there, which, again, makes them, I think, one of the better teams in overall college football. We're getting, the Power 5 and Group of 5 getting, much closer together as these years go on. And I just think that Cincinnati is a very good club. Now, the problem I have, there's always a but, I know that. The issue we have here is that I think Justin Fields is that much of a difference maker. Kirby Smart will never be right in my eyes for not only playing Jake Fromm, over Fields, but essentially letting Fields, go, get away. He is.
What if Georgia wins the title this year?
Well, I still think it's the wrong move by far, because if they win the title this year, it will not be because of Jake Fromm. The majority will not be because of Jake Fromm. It'll be because of how incredibly good their defense is. Yeah. Yes. So
I don't know, it feels more like a get off my lawn type argument. It was still the right move or wrong move.
I just from a perspective of watching these two quarterbacks play, it's not fucking close. I'm sorry. It is just light years.
Between Fields and Ritter, or between Fields and Fromm?
Fields and Fromm. Ritter's good. Ritter's really good.
No, I'm not saying he's not. Yeah. I just didn't know which comparison you were talking about there.
Yeah, well, I think Jake Fromm is incredibly overrated. He is a quality passer, and he's a smart player. He does not make a lot of mistakes. So, again, good quality, but he is not at all Justin Fields. So, anyways, getting back to this game.
Well, the question is, we'll move back to the game. What do we take from Cincinnati's game against UCLA? Because you were on UCLA.
I did like UCLA a lot. However, I'm glad I didn't actually wager on it, because we learned right before game time that 6 guys were not playing in the game. Mm-hmm. And 2 of them were the most important players on each side of the ball, especially Josh Kelly, the running back. So right. I do think that was a major issue in that game for UCLA. And UCLA still hung in there, too, by the way, with missing a lot of their quality players. So
fair.
I do think that was a bit of a wrench in that game for them. I don't take a lot from that game. I do think that this game, Cincy is going to be, again, ready to go and fully prepared for. I just don't think anybody can defend Justin Fields. I don't think anybody can defend the dual running back core that they have at Ohio State. I just don't think it's defensible necessarily. So contain maybe a little bit, but not really defensible. I have a play in this game already. I'm taking the over in this game. Another kind of rare play. I waited on this one intentionally, and I'm glad. So it opened around 55.5. I did just pick it up at 52.5, so I do feel good about that.
Catching lines.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So this is one of those games I think both teams can score. Cincinnati is known for being this Luke Fickell defensive kind of guy, defensive team. That is not true. Desmond Ridder is a great dual threat.
They play
presence.
defense pretty well too. Although
they do.
They did lose James Wiggins, one of their better defenders.
Yeah,
to a season-ending injury.
True, that is true.
So that's going to be kind of big, especially when you need every man on deck against, Ohio State.
Yeah, that's fair. I just think both teams will be able to go back and forth here,
And that's fine, yeah.
Yeah, Ohio State is still in a phase of, I think, proving to everyone and that they can do this without Urban Meyer. I think Ryan Day is extremely motivated. This team really looks like they are firing already. I know they kind of phoned it in the second half last week. I don't care. I think this will be a very high-scoring back-and-forth game. Exactly.
Yeah, no play on it for me yet, but I might tell Tony on the over for sure. I do think Cincinnati can score in this one, and Ohio State might try and get it off to an early lead and take off the gas a little. And
I think they can score. I think they can keep up with that team as well, too. But I also feel like the 16, I don't know much about, not speaking about the total, but I feel like the 16 taking those points feels like a square play to me. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that Cincinnati's a bad team, and I'm not saying they can't hang. It just feels like a square play to me to take Cincinnati with 16 points, because I feel like the depth and the talent on OSU could eventually separate that gap. Well, and what would have been, or what could be, a close in theoretical game may still finish 20 points.
Yeah, or you could even wait to in-game wager and wait for Ohio State to get off to like a 7-0 lead or even like a 10-0 lead or something. And
they get up to 10-0 lead early, you may get 3 touchdowns, and that's
3 touchdowns, maybe even like 24.5 or something.
Well, this could be a good in-play type of game. That's a good point. Yeah,
it's a good thing you showed back up, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't get that kind of insight. Don't get that kind of insight just anywhere.
Yeah, trying to get my knowledge and expand your horizons.
My name's Token Tony, and I make stupid decisions.
Something like that.
This one might be smart. Okay, so that's pretty much going to put a bow on the 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. Pacific time games, unless anyone has any action that I haven't discussed. And I thought maybe you might have some like UAB action, or you just staying off them after that week 1.
I don't have any read at all on Akron. I know the biggest bet the books took last week was on Illinois, which is really freaking weird. Yeah. And I mean, whatever money of the people that did that, good on them, because Akron looks like a disaster right now. But again, at home against UAB, who is clearly a step behind what they were last year and 2 years ago, I don't know. I don't know what to do.
Go ahead.
I've got one. I've got a max school. And that's Bowling Green against
taking
Kansas
25
State.
points.
Taking 25 points.
Interesting. Good luck with that.
It's a lot of points.
Good luck in your feelings.
Yeah. I mean, Wade looked pretty good last week. I think he'll keep it like within 2 touchdowns. So
yeah, I got to imagine this is kind of the swan song Bill Snyder. There's not really a lot of competition there, but
yeah, maybe backdoor cover.
Speaking of Illinois, you had mentioned it. We'll go into the 10 a.m. through 12:30 p.m. Pacific games, and Illinois is now currently in their program history. This is the largest road favorites total or spread. Excuse me. Let me start that over. That was all fucking jumbled. In the history of Illinois football, this is the largest road favorite they have ever been.
Are you serious? Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that is very surprising to hear. I had no idea about that. Wow.
Well, I mean, home favorites, they probably have had a few of these.
Of course, yeah, they play
but they don't play too many like FCS schools on the road. This is the largest road favorite they have been. 3 touchdowns plus the hook, 21.5 as it currently stands. The over-under is actually coming down 5 points at 59.5 at this point as we record the podcast. If anybody's going to know about Illinois and the Fighting Illini, it's the man to my left.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is a team I've followed quite closely the last few years. In fact, I've bet the over on their season wins the last 2 straight years. Too. Connecticut is bad. I did not touch any season win stuff with Illinois or Connecticut. Almost bet the over on UConn, but didn't. That was one of the last teams out. But, yeah, I mean, Illinois looked incredible last week, but I think part of the problem with this is that they played one of the worst teams in FBS with Akron. I think Akron is going to fall completely on their face this year after losing all their coaching staff and a bunch of players. I think it's bad. So I don't put a whole lot into that. What I do care about, however, is that Illinois lost a bunch of running backs last week. So it looks like they might be going with Ravel Bonner and then only like an untested guy behind him. And Bonner is also dinged up as well, too, who is the third-string running back. Epstein is out for the year again with another season-ending injury, and then it looks like Reggie Corbin is not going to play. He was a really dynamic rusher from last year. He ran for 800 yards in the last 6 games or so. I do think that this is going to be a problem for Illinois. I don't put a lot of stock usually in the non-quarterback type of injuries if the quarterback is that meaningful for the team, but I think this one does matter because Illinois runs the ball almost 65% of the time. I think this is going to be a big deal, and where UConn struggles the most is on that defensive line. That's how bad that they have been the last few years. I didn't really like what we saw a lot from UConn again. They struggled against Wagner and barely got out of there with a win. I expected them to look a little bit better than that. So I'm not saying I'm a huge UConn guy here. The thing is, I think against Illinois, they can't really hurt you in a lot of ways offensively, I actually do think there's a decent chance this game can somehow be close. And UConn has a redshirt freshman quarterback that is really dynamic. I mean, he can be a really good player. They stole him from like Syracuse or something like that, and I think he can actually be legit. He's wild and reckless and weird already. Yeah, but he's a talent. So I actually did make a bet on this, but it's nothing important. I bet on the money line with UConn at plus 900. I think they moved it to 1,000 in a couple spots. So well, but at 9-1, I do have UConn to win on the money line here for a very small, fun bet. But I think there's an outside chance this game is close and down to the wire, and I want to have 9-1.
Yeah, for sure. But,
always a but, as there should be.
UConn has not beaten an FBS opponent outside of their conference since 2016.
Well,
it hurts.
They're bad.
They are bad.
Randy Edsall is not. How you said Edsall?
Edsall, yeah.
Edsall.
Randy Edsall.
Is not turning the program around in a swift manner. Not that it's easy to do.
No, but he's not doing anything. Well, you are correct.
Still weird that he left Maryland to take this job.
He's going to get fired, I think. That's part of the issue.
Oh, that he's going to get fired from Maryland?
Yes.
That's maybe true.
Yeah, I think for me on this game, I lean towards the under 59.5. I think both teams will run the ball and move that clock, and especially with Illinois' main running back going to be down with that struggling run defense, I think they might be able to stop a back up here and there, and maybe a longer second down cause a 3rd and short instead of moving the chains.
Illinois, by the way, their starters on Illinois, 70% of them are transfers. It's one of the highest numbers, I believe, in FBS. So, yeah, Lovey has really used the transfer portal more than anybody else recently, which is sort of a cop-out and doesn't usually work at all long-term. So we'll see what happens. But
Lovey's probably coaching for his job, too, at this point, so might want to look for some guys with experience, I guess you could say.
Very likely, yeah.
But, yeah, it's hard to really back a team that struggled against an FCS opponent in any spot, not to disrespect FCS opponents, but I mean, you talk about Iowa State, Connecticut, etc. It's hard to really get behind them early in the season, at least. I don't really like either side. I don't feel confident in Illinois laying 3 touchdowns to really any FBS opponent. But I do kind of agree with Token here. I think that this stays under 60 in the sense of one of 2 ways. Either Illinois hits 42-3 again in this spot. Sorry for your 9-1. Or we see a situation where he's talking about the offenses might look pretty pitiful, and the defenses with a pulse may keep this game, close, like you said, 24-20. And if Connecticut wins, then c'est la vie. But I mean, I'd love for
storm the field.
I'm on a like.
They
here.
might.
I'm on a like here under 60. You're on a UConn money line. Maybe we can make something work here.
Okay.
So, all right, let's move forward to Northern Illinois versus Utah in a 11 a.m. start time. That's gross.
It's early
in Utah. Game starting 11 a.m. I mean, I know we have the Ohio Pitt game, but common football really shouldn't start before noon. Eastern time.
A lot of the Midwest games start at 11 a.m.
Do they?
Well, it's 10 o'clock Pacific. Yeah,
It's 12 p.m. East.
Yeah,
So,
it's
yeah.
11 on the mountain, yeah.
Iowa starts at 11 a.m. a lot of their home games.
Do they?
Northwestern, yes, they do. They are this week.
No, Iowa's starting at 12.
East.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about the central time zone. All right, fair enough.
I grew up in the area, so I mean the Midwest. I remember.
I don't know if it's kind of hard to get up for that shit.
It is early. I'm not saying I'm not saying I agree with
like
the start time. I'm just saying.
It's like the London games out here.
Oh God, those are very early. Yeah.
Well, yeah, the London game. I'm still at work when that thing's playing.
Those are rough.
But nevertheless, all right.
Yeah.
So Northern Illinois at Utah, we have a 21.5, another 21.5 point spread. This time at home, in favor of Utah. The line 44.5. Initial thoughts for me is Utah is a far better team, but that's a lot of points to lay.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I think Utah is definitely the better team, and give me the Utes minus the points, as well as I think the over. I think Northern Illinois might score a 10 spot here. And
They might have trouble scoring.
Yeah, I think they put up 10, and Utah might win like 35-10.
Yeah, I think over the last couple of weeks, all the listeners are pretty well aware of my Utah hard-on at this point. I do believe they are one of the better teams in all of college football, certainly in the Pac-12. I love this team on both sides of the ball. Again, it's another good defensive team, but it's their offense that is going to turn some heads this year more than anything else. Although they're going to have 3 or 4 guys in the NFL on their defensive line, I think, when all is said and done. I mean, it's unbelievable, the talent on their defensive line. But it's a lot of points against Northern Illinois. Northern's in coaching carousel a little bit as well. They've changed some things up there. Interesting, the quarterback they're going with, Ross Bowers, is a former Cal quarterback. So he has some experience playing Utah. It's not great experience, and he's not done well, but it is experience nonetheless. I don't have any read on this game. I'm trying to stay a little bit away, although I did bet Utah last week. That was my only winner last week of 3 games, but I am trying to stay away from Utah here because I am really have quite a bit of money on them now to win the national championship and to win the conference. So I'm kind of just being a little bit careful with
Let that
Utah.
just play out.
Just let it play out because I know I'm a little bit biased. So certainly I don't think they'll have any issue with Northern Illinois. Whether they can cover 21 or so, I'll go with you guys on this one because I don't really have much of a clue, and I don't think they're going to go all out in this one, especially into the second half of this game.
Yeah, we have a lot of uncertainty in Northern Illinois. If you look back the last time they played, which was last year, 17-6, and it was a grind. And Northern Illinois' main focus was shutting down Zach Moss, which they did effectively.
Pretty impressive. It really was.
66 yards on 16 carries. He did have a touchdown. But I would imagine that's going to be another point of focus again. That's a lot of points to lay, and I know that they came out and looked really good against BYU. No official play. I like the under in this game because I think we're going to see an under again. I think we're going to see something along the lines of 24-16 in that range, and you can take Northern Illinois with 3 touchdowns in that spot. Or if you like Utah, maybe putting them in a 14-point teaser to maybe win by 7 or more.
Wow. Yeah, I mean that's a low total too. So yeah, it's impressive. Wow. Thanks, Token. God. Thank you.
All right, so let's.
Wow. I think we almost need to pause the
I think I remember why you weren't here.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. Okay, now we know.
Was he closing it outside the door?
Good move.
Yeah. Trap the ghost. All right. So, speaking of letting bias show, I'll let you two talk about this game. USF, South Florida versus Georgia Tech. South Florida last week suffered the worst loss in program history, 49-0 against South Florida. They crossed the 50-yard line once.
One time.
One
time. I saw that number 2.
They used their one time to get across the 50-yard line.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech, who is still trying to find an offensive, identity, is laying almost a touchdown, 6.5 points, and we have a 61 total in this spot. As much as all of the red flags, say lay off this, I'm all about being on this. So I'll let you guys talk about it first, because I am all over this game. I have 3 bets in this game.
Well, let me get out of the way quickly here, because this is one of the ones I am completely hands off.
I can guess what you're on. You're on South Florida plus the points, South Florida money line, and probably the under.
2 out of 3.
Ooh,
well done,
Token.
2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Well played. I have nothing here for the reasons as you pretty much described. South Florida laid a complete egg. I'm not sure how they're going to respond, and Georgia Tech is a complete revamp on both sides. And they just played Clemson, which was, what a way to start the year.
Mm-hmm.
Who the hell knows what's happening? I don't have a damn clue, so yes.
I think South Florida crosses the 50-yard line at least twice.
Over-under crossing the 50-yard line 6.5 times.
Ooh, I don't know about 6.5. Yeah.
That's a good line. Yeah.
All right, so the 2 you were right about. I took the points. Mm-hmm. I took the money line, getting 2-1 on my money.
Yeah.
And I also put them in my 10-point teaser, getting 16 points. So
I figured if I was wrong about the total, it would be a teaser or something.
As much as I would love to see this team just mire in a what do you call the reverse undefeated? A defeated season? I think Blake Barnett's going to come back and have a pulse. He was awful against Wisconsin.
He
but
passed like 40%.
He was 13 of 30 for 109 and 2 picks, and they, again, crossed the 50-yard line once, and that was in the fourth quarter.
Once.
Again, yes, they faced Clemson, did the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. But, like I said, it's going to be tough to figure out what they do. I think the defense for South Florida is really, really good. Again, not any of this based on last week. They were good last year. They got a transfer, Patrick Macon, who had 15 tackles, 4 for loss, sack, and a forced fumble last week. They also beat Georgia Tech last year at home. So now they head over there. And as much as it pains me, I am on USF plus 200, USF plus 6. And I have put them in a 10-point teaser with Boise State. I caught them at 11. So I got Boise State minus 1 for the Friday night game. And I got UCF with a pick. So that's a 3-team 10-point teaser for you. If you're listening on Friday, you can still get that Boise.
Careful with Marshall.
Mm-hmm.
Marshall's good.
I don't disrespect Marshall. I think Boise can get out of there with a win. I don't think they're going to cover the 11. I think it's going to be a close game. Although, if this is airing on Saturday, we already know what happens.
Well.
Whoops.
Yeah. If it's airing on Saturday, we may have to cut the tape there. Especially for that long pause we had to let the room clear.
Yeah.
God, I'm starting to remember why it was okay that you weren't here.
It's cleaner air.
Cleaner air.
And why Skype might be a better option.
Skype is a great option. All right, so let's move on. We talked about Wisconsin. They are facing Central Michigan this week. So I turn to my resident Michigan man.
Oh, yeah.
Token Tony. We have Central Michigan at Wisconsin. Wisconsin is laying 5 touchdowns.
5
and
touchdowns.
a 53 total at this point.
Yeah.
Gotta love it.
Yeah. I like the over in this one. The line, I have no idea. I want to take Central Michigan plus the points because that's a lot of points, but Wisconsin's damn good. Wisconsin might even make a run for the Big Ten.
Oh. Wow, really?
Yes.
Wow.
But what does that have to do with 35 points right now?
Central plus the points. I think they barely cover.
Good old Jim McElwain. Good cover.
Yeah. I like the over, though. I think that's the best play on this game. Over 53.
Taking an over in a Wisconsin game. Bold move, Cotton.
Yeah.
This is another one I have absolutely.
What do we do with Jonathan
Magic
Taylor turnover
country.
here?
Well, if you're
160
playing,
yards.
If you're playing college fantasy football, you start him.
Yeah, that's true. Can you start him twice?
Yeah, twice would be nice. This would be a great game for him. The biggest difference here is lines. The O-line, D-line difference between these two teams is pretty massive here. So Central Michigan is a work in progress, as we talked about, and they will get a lot better under McElwain. I actually like them a lot for having an outside chance to come close to maybe getting in the MAC championship. With that being said, that's the Mac, and he's going to have his hands full here. I do think that my line, I came up with one before the game started. I share these every once in a while because this one was funny because it opened at 34. Most places my line was 34, actually. So it's kind of one of those funny things. This is just a great matchup for Wisconsin. I think that everything that Wisconsin does
He can say whatever he
well,
wants. He has no proof.
well, I mean, yeah. So
My line was 35, and it's currently 35. I'm just kidding.
no, I mean, it's not like I'm impressive. I'm just saying it's
It is cool.
my own
No,
rankings. I base it off of my own power rankings, so it is what it is. Like sometimes I'm off by 7 points. Doesn't mean that it's a bettable game. It just means that we have different we rank
Opinions,
differently.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just fucking with you. Calm
Yeah.
down.
But no, I mean I don't have a play on this one.
Calm your tits.
I think if I had to do anything, I would bet the under. I'm not really sure Central Michigan is going to be able to put any points up in this one, and I mean that's where I'd be. But it's a good line I think for the game, and we'll certainly see Wisconsin I think in some more competitive games. I think down the road where they're going to struggle. I think against some of the good Big Ten teams. This is where I disagree with Token here. I think this is not one of the better teams in the Big Ten, but I might be wrong about this. So we'll see if they throttle Central Michigan again. I mean, I'm going to look bad with that prediction because that's 2 blowouts in a row.
Well, I think the better teams. If Jack Cohn doesn't progress and become, I mean, look, they haven't had a great quarterback in a long time. But if Jack Cohn doesn't progress, this may be easier said than done. But it's basically focused on taking Taylor out of the game in these spots, and that's probably been Wisconsin's downfall in a lot of years when they've had James White, they've had Melvin Gordon, they've had a lot of these running backs who are just absolute monsters. They can't really get over the hump because, well, when you take out the monster, there's really nothing left behind it. It's just tough. It's tough to really back the Chippewas in this spot. The last 16 games in non-conference, the Badgers have held 9 of their opponents with no offensive touchdowns. It's just hard. I have no play on this, and I'm not poo-pooing your play. It's just really hard to back anything. It's hard to back anything in this game, really. It's hard to have a real good feeling about anything you take in this game because you're right. Wisconsin may have a situation where Central Michigan somehow does stop Jonathan Taylor turnover, and they've got to rely on Jack Cohn, and they can't. So it may be a telling. I don't know what's in the depth chart for Wisconsin. Tony Johnson would have a better relationship with that because his dad's Paul Johnson. So.
That was weird. I don't even know what how to respond to that. That was great.
Paul Johnson. We'll call Paul Christ, and they'll get this information. It's not his dad. Anyways, I can't feel comfortable laying any side, any total on this one. So we'll just have to stick with Token's Central Michigan plus 35.
All right,
that's the only play on this game.
I hope you're right, Token.
Plus 35, I do like the over.
I hope you bet it on your MGM account and don't win.
All right, fair enough.
Wow.
Hey, we got a bet going.
I understand.
It's $50 is $50.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Less bragging rights and all that.
All right, Nebraska and Colorado. Oh, boy, your ears shot up. Nebraska is a 4-point road favorite, which I want to call horseshit on, but they may not be. It may not be too bad of a line here. Scott Frost is coming in with his 25th ranked team, which shouldn't be, but
no.
That's a different conversation.
Different argument.
Did not look great against South Alabama, but at the same time looked okay.
That's a bad Sun Belt team too. It's not like this is one of those quality group of 5 team. This is a very.
They had a good
subpar.
second half, but it was like, did you forget to wake up? I mean.
Yeah, Martinez had no touchdowns in that game against South Alabama. That is startling. I think a lot of people were expecting them to roll and roll early. That was a startling game. I did take some stock in that game personally. I thought we saw a lot of the same badness, especially defensively, early in last season from Nebraska that we saw in that game. South Alabama was actually able to move the ball pretty decently, which is, again, that is a really bad team. I think that is one of the worst Sun Belt teams in probably the worst Group of 5 conference. So, I mean, that's saying a lot there. Again, I liked what Colorado did last week. Again, Colorado State is not a great team themselves, but I really thought They look quite good on the offensive side of the ball. And again, Mel Tucker is going to get this thing right on defense. I mean, he is a great defensive mind, and they have some talent coming in that is really impressive. So I know we care a lot about this game and this game only, and I get that. I really like what Colorado is doing here. I think they probably have the better coach in this game, especially on the field, and I think a lot of those intrinsic elements really go in Colorado's favor here. You know, playing at high elevation is always difficult for teams that play at sea level. To me, this feels like a game where I'm actually going to maybe take some halftime bets. I haven't actually done this yet. Or in play, I think there'll be a lot more points scored in the first half of this game and less in the second half.
Never been a huge halftime guy. It's not anything against it. I just feel like when I do bet halftime lines, I view the game complete opposite the way it goes. I don't do well in the halftimes.
Yeah, I mean, it's all in what works for you and what's comfortable. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's good. I mean, sometimes it isn't. I do like to bet halftimes and some in play, but it's only in specific circumstances for me. Mm-hmm. And this is the type of game I want to be able to read as it's going forward, because I do think that there's too much love still on the Nebraska side. I mean, the line is okay. I would bet the +4 on Colorado if I had to, but this one, I think, if we see Nebraska kind of do a lot of the same stuff from previous year and last week, I do think that Colorado will pull away with this game late. So if Nebraska can get out to an early lead, or if it's close early, I do think taking some points with Colorado, either in play or in the second half, could be very beneficial.
Interesting. Yeah, no play on me on this. If I had to pick a side, I guess I'd take Colorado plus the points.
I'm taking Colorado money line.
Okay. Nice. I hope you're right. I have the Nebraska under for season wins. So
there you go. Allow me to help you out.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get to the game of this block, and that is Texas A&M and Clemson. Texas A&M last year was able to keep it close against Clemson. Eventually, Clemson was able to beat them, and we've got another 17-point favorite game here in this spot. It's hard to believe Clemson is that much better than everybody else not named Alabama, but it could be true. 63.5 for the total.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great game. This is another line where it looks almost...
Jimbo and Dabo again.
Yeah, it almost looks too high, I think, at first glance. This is one of those at first glance, it's like, why are they giving this many points to a very good Texas A&M team? And then as I went and looked deeper into the game and the personnel, and it just...
It kind of makes more sense.
It makes a lot more sense. Yeah, I kind of got there. I got there so much that I actually don't think there's much of a play. There's an interesting statistic out there. Jimbo Fisher as a double-digit underdog in his career as a coach. I mean, it's only happened 4 times to him, but he is 3-0-1, and he was 2-0 last year as a double-digit underdog, and those 2 games were at Clemson and against Alabama.
Yeah.
So
2-point victory or 2-point defeat for Jimbo last year against Clemson.
Exactly. So yeah,
that was with Kelly Bryant at the helm.
That was with Kelly Bryant. That was Trevor Lawrence's first game. That was Lawrence's first start.
Are you sure? Previous stats has Kelly Bryant throwing for 205 and a touch.
In the last year's game?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought that was Lawrence's first start.
I thought Lawrence's first start was in the 3rd game, but
okay. Either way.
Yeah,
no. I mean that's worthwhile in some regard, but I just don't. Clemson lost a lot of talent on their defensive line.
Sure,
3 guys went to the
3
NFL.
first-round picks.
Yeah. So I think that is going to matter at some point, maybe further down the road here. I'm not really sure at this point. I mean, how many points Texas A&M is still going to score? I like Kellen Mond's progression as a quarterback. I just don't know how many they can hang, and I'm 100% confident that Clemson is going to be able to score. So, to me, I'm not really feeling great.
Trevor Lawrence didn't look that great against Georgia Tech.
He did not. I think the great thing about this is that he doesn't have to necessarily look great in a lot of games for them to put up a lot of points. I mean, their third-string running back is a potential NFL player. So I like what Clemson has on both sides, certainly, but especially offensively here. And I just think that it's a stay-away-from game. If I had to bet on this one, I guess I would take the points with A&M, but to me, this is going to be a tough, tall task for A&M here.
Ditto, yeah. If I had to pick, I would take the Texas A&M plus 17. Yeah, I wouldn't feel confident.
Yeah, true.
I don't know. I'm trying to quickly look up the money line for Texas A&M here. I've got to figure it's probably in the 6s at this point, or maybe greater. But
Might be a little higher than that.
self-service doesn't want to seem to work here in the studio.
Oh, okay.
But
Get it for you if you want.
it's hard just because I like to see if it's big enough. I might sprinkle a little bit on the action. I would feel a lot more comfortable if this game was at Texas A&M, but being in Clemson. Yeah, Jimbo hasn't been particularly, successful there in Death Valley.
6-1.
So about 600.
Yeah.
No real play. I'd say a strong lean on Texas A&M with the points here. It's hard. It's hard to find a side because if you take Texas A&M and they get their doors blown in, you're like, well, how do I bet against Clemson? They're so freaking good. And then when if you bet against if you don't take the points here in this spot, you got.
How do you bet against Jimbo Fisher plus double digits?
Yeah, I mean, especially with that trend. I mean, I got to feel like probably no play, sit back and enjoy it. But if you have to have action, you might as well just take the points because usually games like this,
could even have backdoor cover.
Well, this is on ABC. It's 3:30 on the East Coast. This is the game of this time slot. You don't like blowouts in these
It's
games.
not Nebraska and Colorado?
No. I'm not saying that's not a bad game to watch. My point being is that this is the game ABC wants all eyeballs on.
Oh, yeah.
You have a top 25 matchup, one of only two this week. They don't want blowouts. People turn off blowouts no matter who's playing, unless it's the national championship when Bama was getting blown out. It's very rare that people stick around to watch blowouts when there's other things to, one, watch and other things to, two, do on a Saturday night. Or Saturday afternoon, I guess.
Yeah, you can go outside, toss the football around or whatever, have barbecue.
Sure, those are options, yes. Those are options that you can do.
True. Yeah. Lots of things to do.
Wow. Go play a round of golf. Depends where you're at.
You can't really start a round of golf at 3:30 and hope to get in, but...
Well, on the West Coast, you can, though.
Nothing wrong with getting
12:30.
9 in. Nothing wrong with 9.
That's what she said.
Play a municipal course.
Say that again?
Play a municipal course.
Close enough. All right, so who else has got action on anything in the 10 a.m. to 12:30 slot Pacific time?
I got to play on Texas San Antonio against Baylor. This is one of the only times I actually did take a poor line because I don't think it's necessarily going. These are not important numbers. It opened at like 27.5. I have it at 26. I think it'll keep coming down. This is just a play. I think we're going to see San Antonio get a lot better on defense, like they were 2 years ago. They looked again pretty good last week, so I like that a lot. And I just think Baylor is overvalued and I just think they're a little overhyped with what's going on. I mean, Matt Rule's done a nice job there, but it's still not a very good team. And I think to cover a line like this against a pretty decent Group of 5 team, you need to have a very good team, and they don't have it. So I like the Roadrunners getting a bunch of points with a pretty decent quality defense.
Fair enough. Any action?
No action for me.
All right, let's move on to the 1 p.m. Pacific through 4 p.m. Pacific games. And there's no line on this game. The ATS and the total is off. But I just wanted to get you, because I know you're Jake Fromm's biggest fan. No trouble with Murray State, obviously. But what does UGA want to work on? Because they're going to have bigger opponents here. I mean, they want to work on getting, depth experience, or do they want to work on Jake Fromm maybe being able to navigate games? What's the play here as far as Kirby Smart's mission against Murray State? Because obviously stay healthy is key.
Yes.
But what else do you really want to do in this spot? Because you're probably going to be up huge pretty early.
That was going to be my answer, was stay healthy. But yeah,
Rewind the tape. Clean slate. What should they do?
No, that's pretty much it. I don't think there's a whole lot you can do against Murray State. What they showed last week, really being very, very dominant against Vanderbilt and being pretty one-dimensional on offense, was very impressive in my book. So I would say, to me, honestly, probably getting Jake Fromm out of there as early as you can, and getting another quarterback ready. I don't even actually know who their backup is now, but there might be a time where the backup is going to have to play and play well in a game. We saw that with Alabama in the SEC championship last year, where you need to make sure your guys are ready to go, because as the time goes on and they're in important conference games, I think that probably trickles down to pretty much all the positions. But that would be where I would be at. Is if I was Kirby Smart, I'd be getting a lot of other guys ready to play, almost acting like they're starters this week.
Okay.
Too. So that would be kind of where my head would be at, certainly.
No comments on this game for me.
All right.
No.
There's not much to comment on, but I get the point.
Murray State.
Will they score?
That's a basketball school.
All right,
Wow.
Token. I have one piece of analysis that I want you to provide the information for the listener.
Yes.
Where is Murray State?
I will search that up.
Because I've searched up and down all 50 states, and none of them are
I thought
named
it was Oklahoma.
Murray.
No?
You want to take a guess? You want to go Oklahoma? I'm going to say Murray State's in Tennessee.
That could be.
Yeah, if I had to guess, I was going to guess like Kentucky or something.
Yeah, that's kind of
That's
that feels
Morehead
good
State.
too.
That's Morehead
That
State.
feels good too. Tennessee's a good guess.
Which is one of my favorite schools.
I'm gonna go-
Morehead State.
Is it Kentucky?
Oh, shit.
Oh, nice.
Well, Murray State was what's this fuck? That's playing in the NBA now.
John Morant.
Yeah, thank you. I couldn't think of his name.
Yeah.
The Racers.
Murray, Kentucky.
Murray, Kentucky. Fair enough.
That's been a good basketball school for decades.
Yeah, wasn't that where Jay
Southwestern
Crowder
Kentucky
came from too? Murray
Yes.
State?
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
for a guy who doesn't like basketball, I knew
It's in
that.
southwestern Kentucky, so Tennessee wasn't too far off.
There you go. They're kind of butt buddies, Tennessee and Kentucky.
I'm sure there's some cousin action going.
Speaking of butt buddies, Alabama versus New Mexico State. Segue.
That's way to garner our listeners from the South.
No, we're not talking about Gardner Webb. Calm down. Alabama, 55.5-point favorites. One piece of information, Nick Saban in his time at Alabama has never covered a 50-plus point spread.
Yes.
Does he do it today? Or, yeah, I guess today. Depending on when you're listening. This airs Friday and Saturday. Does he do it Saturday? 65 is the total.
Maybe. I don't know. This is I tend to stay away from these games, obviously, like I think a lot of people do. This is just an insane amount of points. Again, the gun to the head. Everything pretty much has to go right for you to cover 55.5. So I would bet on the other side, although, again, I have no inkling at all on this. And if it's 42-0 at the end of the first half, Alabama's up. I mean, are we going to be surprised? No, we're not going to be surprised. So,
Are you nervous if you have 55.5 points?
I mean,
Maybe scared, just
maybe a
nervous.
little bit. Maybe a little. I'm not sure.
Do we see little Tagovailoa in this game?
Probably. I think we're going to see a lot of guys.
What's his name? Not
Starts with a T.
Threa. We know that. 'cause
I don't know.
We tried that.
Muga.
I don't remember.
Yeah, New Mexico State had their doors blown in 58-7 last week. So probably looking to get their doors blown in this week
That's
again.
not going to change, yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'd probably take the over and
Washington
lay
State.
the points.
Washington State, okay. So they're just taking some paydays at this point.
Yeah, these are good paydays. These are good ones. Yeah.
Give me Alabama minus the points and give me the over.
What is the over? What did I say it was? 65?
64.5. Yeah,
65.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of those they're not going to let you parlay because they're too correlated, together. But yeah, that would be fun. That'd be a fun one.
It's interesting because I feel like as bad as New Mexico State is, I mean, at what point does Saban take his foot off the gas? I mean, remember we were sitting here recording one day and watched Citadel keep it close in the first half?
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
So I have made this a play, but not a straight play.
Teaser.
I put it in part of my 14-point teaser. I got New Mexico State plus 69.5.
Wow.
And if I lose, I deserve to be shot.
It's a silly thing to put in a teaser.
69.5 points. Can't wait.
You just need like a touchdown from New Mexico State, and you're probably home.
Probably. I feel like
Touchdown,
I feel like Alabama may only put up 55 themselves. So you're right, touchdown and I'm home.
Yeah, I won't let you parlay them.
Yeah.
It's so weird though. Then take it off the board. I mean, what's the point of even having a 55-point spread?
Well, they just won't let you parlay the spread and the
team
total
and
in
the
games
total
like
in this
this.
game,
That's commonplace. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, usually
They're
within
very
like
correlated. Yeah.
usually if it's within like 14
What if I
points
want
or something.
Bama and under? What if I want it 56-0?
Well, they won't let you do any parlays. And
two
Rude.
sevens.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just rude.
All right.
Just rude.
There's that.
All right, so I will move on because it's just rude.
All right.
And Florida State, for all the shit that just happened last week, they're going to make Florida State a 22-point favorite. To do that against anybody in the Willie Taggart era is just blasphemy at this point. But Florida State's giving 22 to ULM, University of Louisiana Monroe. 65 is the total at home. To quote the hashtag of Florida State football, Token, do something.
Bet the dog.
Oh,
Sure.
Bet the dog.
To the point.
Precise.
To
Yeah.
the point.
yes.
Should FSU be laying 3 touchdowns to anyone at this point? I mean, Samford last year, for the love of God, almost beat them.
Yeah, they shouldn't.
At this point, probably yes. I will slightly disagree. I think this team is better, especially on their offensive line. I do think it's a better team.
That's
think
true.
I like
They could
the-
play anything like the first half.
I think I like the under in this game too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
65.5.
Maybe. I have a pretty large season win bet on Louisiana Monroe over 5 wins.
How do you find that?
a little bit
Louisiana
biased. This, I think, might have been MGM, actually. Funny enough.
So wild.
Yeah.
And Louisiana Monroe over 5 wins.
Yeah, they have a lot of seniors on offense. Caleb Evans is a guy that is really, really good as a dual threat player. I do think they are going to be able to score against Florida State. I do agree with that. I just don't know. I don't know how many, and how is Florida State going to react to this really tough loss there at the end of the game.
Do you think UL Monroe has a shot to win?
No, but I mean I hope so. Obviously for my own benefit, but probably
This would be a
not.
huge win for them.
That would
to
be an
picking up in your 5.
enormous win. But I don't know. I tend to stay away from games, as you guys know, when a team has either randomly won big or lost close games, or like something weird happened last week, because I just don't know how they're going to react. Especially if we haven't heard any any quotes or anything from anyone. I haven't picked up a lot from Florida State this week, so I just have no idea here. This is, I think, going to be probably a pretty rough game to watch too. So I don't have much interest in it personally.
Yeah, I'm curious on how many points Florida State could put up, because I think that they would love to come out and dispel the ghosts of what happened against Boise.
It's a bad defense they're facing. Monroe is a really subpar defense, so I think they should be able to score.
Fair enough. They did play 2 years ago, and Florida State was able to win 42-10. So the question is probably going to see more of that spot right there. So the under token looks good, and he said 65 is a very high total. But if we see first half FSU in this game, that they might be touching that in that vicinity. So yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, as a joke, I'd love to just take UL Monroe on the money line and just have a little nice ticket in case fucking Florida State blows this again. But
Taggart won't survive.
if he loses this, you think he's fired?
Well, he'll be fired within the end of the year,
yeah,
but it might be very quick.
Could you imagine Kendall Briles, interim head coach? I would assume it would be Kendall
It
Briles.
would very likely be Browse, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a weird one. But
would be weird.
lay off. But yeah, if anything.
Money line's 10-1.
10, that's it? 10 to 1? A 22-point spread, 10 to 1.
Probably not high enough.
Yeah, it's probably not high enough to take
I
some
was
action.
guessing like 12 to 14-1 would be.
For a 22-point spread?
Yeah.
Better one would be on
I was going to say
UConn.
like 18 to 20 to 1. For what?
I said better money would be on UConn as a money line.
Yeah, that's true. That is probably affirmative.
And there's a Friday game as well. I know we're airing a little bit later on, but I think there's a Friday money line that makes more sense too.
Maybe you should pop your Twitter open then.
Oh, maybe I should.
And we can retweet it.
Marshall
All
Rice.
San Diego State at UCLA.
I like Rice.
I like rice too. It's a little carby for me though. But
White rice.
Rice!
yeah, I like the white rice. Not so keen on the brown rice. No. San Diego State at UCLA. UCLA 8.5. 45 is the total. Don't really know a lot about this one. I kind of put this in the lineup for you.
This would be a me type of game.
Although I do find it funny that for teams that struggled mightily on offense, San Diego State putting up 6 points
to Weber.
to Weber State.
It's pretty rough.
Yeah, that I actually have a like on the over 45, simply for the opposite factor.
Yeah, no, it is really, really low. I agree with you there, especially when opened around 50. Very strange. This one I think will come down to is another running back that I think matters a lot for this game. Juwan Washington, the running back for San Diego State, is questionable, and from what I have heard here, looks more unlikely to play than likely at this point. They do have a couple other guys that have some skill, it appears, but they have almost no game experience. They got a little bit last week against Weber. That's just because Washington was in and out of the game. But I do think that if Washington does sit, which makes the most sense for a team that is playing another non-conference game, and they should probably want him to be healthy and ready to go when conference play starts. I think that does give definitely a significant edge to UCLA because of the fact that San Diego State has big issues throwing the ball and moving the ball down the field, and they have a quarterback transfer from a FCS school that doesn't have a lot of experience at all in this realm and came from a rushing attack in the FCS level. So I just don't really like what San Diego State can do here on this side of the ball. And then on the flip side, UCLA getting a lot of guys back from injury from last week, which we touched on a little bit with the Cincinnati game, and especially if Josh Kelly plays, which he is probable from what I've read here. I think that they're going to be a lot better, and they will definitely show well in this one. It's a lot of points here. Rocky Long has a very, very good history of covering lines against high-quality Power 5 teams. He's covering lines at almost an 80% clip at his time at San Diego State. He's a great coach. I just think this setup is bad for him here. It smells really bad, this line here. I mean, it's a lot higher than I think a lot of people would have expected before the season started. So I'm staying away. However, if we have a light lean here, I would actually be just laying the points on UCLA. As funny as that is, I do think that they're going to be a lot better in this game than last week.
Good talk, Token.
Yeah.
Nothing on this one?
Nothing. I'd probably take UCLA minus the points.
Fair enough.
Yeah. San Diego State's not that great.
All right. Let's move on to BYU and Tennessee.
Ooh. Both dumpster fires last week. Both these teams.
That's true. They were a pretty bad dumpster fire. However, still got to play football.
Yeah.
And these two are going to do it. And I just lost where I was looking.
Yeah,
so I'll let you talk about it while I find that page.
Yeah. There's two people.
Tennessee 3.5, 53 is the total.
Okay, two people I respect, sports betting wise. I've listened to on this game, and they are on complete opposite sides for very different reasons. So it's always kind of interesting.
Well, allow me to be the tiebreaker
Fair enough.
after you talk.
Absolutely, no, I'm not going to have a play in this one. On paper, Tennessee is significantly better in a lot of aspects. Maybe a couple of positions defensively they aren't. What I think is more important is that Kalani Sitake, the coach at BYU, is, I think, maybe the worst on-field coach in FBS football. And that is saying a lot because there's a lot of really bad ones on the field. I think he is unbelievably bad at making adjustments in-game, at understanding what to do, clock management, stuff like that. He's terrible. He's another guy that probably won't survive after this season. I don't think there's any chance that they're going to bring him back. So, that being said, I'm not a huge fan of the Jerry Pruitt regime here at Tennessee. Clearly they were undisciplined and not ready to play last week against again, relatively middling to subpar Sun Belt team with Georgia State. I mean, that was it. And they clearly lost that game. It wasn't like it was close and anything could have happened at the end.
No, the score did not indicate.
They clearly lost that game. They got beat in every facet of the game. So I think Tennessee will respond a little bit better here than I think the public and people in the perception that they're giving them. The only reason I would back Tennessee, not really in that regard, is because I don't like BYU at all. And so That's where I'd be, but I think this is a very much stay away from game because I don't know. I just don't really know enough, and these are tough non-conference games sometimes to figure out.
Like, you're next. Like, why do you shove a handful of seeds when you know you're next?
It was like 5 minutes ago. I think Tennessee bounces back from this one. BYU is not that great. This line actually should be probably a little higher, in my opinion. It should be closer to 6. So, Tennessee, they win by a touchdown.
All right, you ready for my tie-breaking play here?
Yes, I am.
All right, here it comes. Tennessee money line. I feel like this game's going to be close.
That's such a bad tie-breaking decision. Oh, jeez.
I really had no pick. I just wanted to find something to get you. I had no pick. This game is awful. I don't want to watch it. I don't want to bet on it because I don't want to have to watch it.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to track it. I don't want to have to follow it. I don't want to have to refresh it on sports apps.
I agree.
But if I had to pick something, Tennessee money line. If you just listen to your heart, you'll probably agree.
No, I agree with not wanting to watch or follow it. I don't agree with anything about a money line bet on a favorite in this type of game.
All right, fair enough. All right, so we come to Florida Atlantic hosting some team out of Orlando, the University of Central Florida. I will try to stay off of rant, although I feel like in the long term, this 2/3 quarterback system will be not good for Central Florida, UCF. But right now, in these games, these tune-up games, although FAU is not really a slouch, they have given...
They're on defense.
Well, they have given they have given UCF trouble in previous seasons, but this is a far different team than the seasons where they've actually been able to beat them before. Last year, UCF was able to kind of beat them by 20. But...
Is that your favorite place, the Boca Raton?
Why is that my favorite place?
The bowl game. Remember during the bowl season, Boca Raton Bowl.
Yeah. No, my favorite is the Bahamas Bowl, which might not actually exist anymore. Prayers to them. That wasn't something to laugh about.
Oh, yeah, the issues. That's not funny at all.
I'm not sure if that stadium's still standing at this point.
It may not be. I don't know.
But yes, I mean, we saw what happened with. What do y'all? I'm just saying. I got a chuckle about it, and then I realized it's probably not funny. They're going through a lot of shitty situation right now.
They are.
The last thing they're thinking about is the Popeyes Bahamas Bowl is going to be here in December.
Yeah, and then Popeyes pulled out a sponsorship last year, which was really upsetting.
Oh, so who was it? Wasn't it like the Bunt Cherry or something like that? You got to look that up. Who was the sponsor of the Popeyes Bowl last year?
No, I think it was some sort of financial institution.
I'm going with Butt Cherry. I'm going with Butt Cherry. Actually, no, I think the Butt Cherry.
it was one of those travel things. It was not.
Bunt Cherry, I think, was the Boca Raton Bowl.
Yeah,
it's the Makers Wanted Bahamas Bowl.
Makers Wanted.
Yeah, I think it's some sort of weird new company. We looked it up actually on the air.
A financial thing.
It's a weird financial.
Is it really?
Yeah.
So who was the Butt Cherry Bowl? Other than the fact that
I think it was the Boca
USF got butt cherried in their own house by Marshall last year, and then by Wisconsin. But anyway, somehow UCF was able to win 62-0 against FAMU last week and move down a spot in the rankings. Funny how that works. But nevertheless, we get over it. The line is 10. And, I again, the only thing that really scares me is the fact that they're playing 2 quarterbacks. And I get why they're doing it. And I assume they're trying to make sure Wimbush plays well, because I think eventually they're going to redshirt Dylan Gabriel. They're gonna use his red shirt after 4 games?
Yeah, 4 games.
Yeah. So my assumption is if they feel after 4 games that Wimbush can't lead the team, then they're gonna just burn Gabriel's red shirt. That being said, the line's 10. The total is, I just had it here. Now I lost it. 67.5. That is a lot of points, even for UCF.
Yes, I agree. I think UCF had an injury as well to
Bam Moore.
Cornerback, which I think was one of their best cornerbacks. So and he's out for the season, from what I understand. So that
correct, torn ACL.
unfortunate in that sense. That was just a note I'd made on here on this game that had popped up. But yeah, I mean, I think the line is pretty good. I am not at all. Well, I wasn't an FAU fan last year. Certainly, that was one of my bigger under-season win bets. And this year I think it's more the same. This team, especially defensively, is a total train wreck. I'd be shocked if UCF is not able to kind of get what they want on the offensive side of the ball.
It feels like the line should be bigger, don't you think?
Yeah,
it feels like it should be. They should be one of these 17 to 21 point.
If I had to make a line, I would have made it 13. Yeah, that was the line I came up with on my own.
Something seems, especially since everything I'm reading, this is going to be a de facto home game for Central Florida. I have even heard that. So it was kind of if you laugh about it if you think about it. So apparently FAU ticket holders were trying to gouge UCF fans. Like they're talking $110, $130 per seat. So UCF fans bought Florida Atlantic season tickets for $65.
Oh, nice.
And they're going to flip the rest of the games.
Oh, that's cool.
So good for Florida Atlantic. They sold out their seats. Bad for them. It's going to be basically a home game, from what I understand, for UCF in this spot. But yeah, I agree with you. It's going to be hard for them not to get what they want. The only thing is if one of these guys maybe presses and tries too hard and lets Florida Atlantic hang around for a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm on the under 68 in this spot. I am also, like I said before, I took the 10-point teaser with USF and Boise, and I took UCF down to basically a pick 'em in this game, which I feel very confident that they're going to be able to win this game, whether it's by one or by hopefully not quite hitting the over of 68.
Back to the Boca Raton Bowl. It was the cherry bundi tart cherry.
That was what butt cherry, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Say it again. Cherry bunda tart.
Cherry bundi tart cherry Boca Raton Bowl.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Cherry bundi tart cherry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like they drew it up.
Oh, actually,
I remember saying that. Like, I was
memorable,
like,
yes.
Yeah, you won't forget the cherry butt cherry.
I like butt cherry.
I already forgot it. All right. So, any other action notables in this 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Pacific slate of games?
Negative Ghost Rider.
Yes, I have the biggest wager of the day is on North Texas getting 3.5 at SMU. This is another one that will lead in from your boys there in Orlando, is that they will have, I think, at least half the stadium covered at SMU. They sold out their allotment very early on, and they've bought up a lot of the extra seats as well. So Denton is not too far from Dallas, and they have a very strong fan base there at North Texas.
Yeah, I want to say it's maybe half an hour at most.
Yeah, very close.
Yeah.
So that's really good, and I just think this team is unstoppable on offense. In regards to, I think a lot of good Power 5 teams would not be able to stop North Texas. Defensively is where they do have some issues. I do think they're a little bit underrated, especially their defensive line. They do get after the quarterback pretty well. So I think that's something that nationally people don't seem to understand, is that North Texas can really play a little bit of defense in that sense. But on offense, everyone's a senior. That's great in all the important positions, including both tackles that have been there now for 3+ years as starters. This North Texas team is on a fast train. I love this team a lot. I'm surprised they're getting points here.
I actually have them plus 145 on the money line.
Yeah, that's a good bet.
Got them in a bet.
That's a good bet. I like North Texas a lot in this game. I'll go quickly through these next two. I do have a wager here on Coastal Carolina.
7 points.
Yeah, at KU. Well, I was fortunate. I got it early.
10.
9. So I feel good there. This is about the same line that it was with the Indiana State that KU had last week, and I don't really quite understand, because Coastal Carolina is actually is a decent team here, and they are obviously an upgrade over Indiana State. So I think this line is dead wrong. This is another one of those lines that's just simply wrong. I think Coastal will certainly hang around in this game. The only issue that I have in this one, and this is not going to move the line that much, so I don't really understand is Puka Williams, the great running back for KU, is back. And Les Miles was asked this week, how much will Puka play? You're going to ease him in. And Les said that he's going to play a lot. So I take that as that he will be the incumbent starter here. And, I think Puka would be a starting running back on a lot of good SEC teams. I don't think it's unquestionably he is the best player on KU. So that does worry me a little bit, although I do think that Coastal Carolina is a pretty decent ball club. So I like getting the points there. And then another one that I'm watching closely is Florida International. Another team that's pretty close to the vest. I have another over. I had them on the over season wins last year. I have it again this year. The only concern is this line opened at like 11 or like 10.5 at some spots. It went all the way down to 7. And then now it's creeping back up to 7.5 or 8. I don't know if that was just some early steam and I screwed up and I should have picked it up at 7. But to me, this line should be, I have it set at 17. So I don't know if my own power rankings just suck, and they might. I don't know. But this just seems weird. So Western Kentucky is, just not at all good in any regard. They lost to a very bad team last week late.
Well, they may get the chance to hire Willie Taggart back.
Maybe.
Sorry, I thought that was funny.
Yes. Well, Willie's probably going to be needing a job at some. Well, unless he wants to just, after he gets fired, just keep the money for a little while. But I think I like Florida International here. Haven't made that bet, but this one looks pretty strong, and that's through 4 o'clock for me.
Yeah, no other place for me, so.
All right, well, then I will lead into the 4:30 and later Pacific starts with Western Michigan and Michigan State. Again, I default to the 3-1-3 man himself.
Token game.
Michigan State minus 16. Total 46.5.
Spartiana on this one. Western Michigan Broncos are pretty good, but not that good, especially going into East Lansing. And total, I'd probably take the over, but not sold on the total.
I got nothing on this game.
Absolutely nothing. I think this is the same Michigan State team we've essentially seen the last year or so. Lewerke still looks like a complete work in progress. I don't think Rocky Lombardi's the answer either. And defensively, they might actually be better than last year, and they were really good last year too. Mm-hmm. So, again, a grinded out like poop fest of a game. I'm staying away.
All right, so we go poop fest. We move on to Nevada and Oregon, and man, my computer's being funny today. We got Nevada and Oregon. We have a 24-point spread. That's a lot. Do we think that's more so that Oregon hung with an SEC school in this spot? Total 61.5.
They should have won. They should have absolutely.
They should have won. Absolutely, yeah. I agree.
The better team for the majority of the game.
This is a huge line. Nevada's not a slouch. Again, it was against Purdue, and they needed every bit of it. But we're just looking. I just look at overmatched in this spot.
They are going to be overmatched, but this is one of those coming down games I like to stay away from because I'm not sure how Nevada's going to respond after that big come-from-behind win last week.
The fault, yeah.
And how is Oregon going to respond to that very close loss, a very unfortunate loss there? If the receiver gets tackled in bounds, that game ends and Oregon actually still wins the game, which is amazing. But, I just don't know. But, if you look at the talent on both sides of the ball, especially the lines here, Oregon's offensive line might be the best in the entire country, better than Alabama and Georgia, for real. But, it's just, I can't fathom Nevada staying in this game at all. So, but, how do these teams respond? I don't really know. If I had to bet on this, I would just lay oodles and oodles of points because if Oregon does do what I kind of think they will, they'll win by 40. So that's what I would do. But again, I'm staying away from it because I just don't know how they're going to respond.
It's fair enough. Yeah, it's a tough one to really kind of predict. Yeah, and Token has decided to not predict it.
It's all right. I predict it will be an interesting game to watch, but it might not be.
All right, let's move on to, speaking of Oregon, the team they lost to last week is Auburn. True freshman Bo Nix came in, played all right, got the job done when it was time to get the job done, and now they move on to Tulane, who should be no real challenge for Auburn. However, the line has actually come down from 19 to 17. I'll start personally. I wish I would have, you talked about catching lines at the right time. I wish I would have caught this because I like Tulane plus the points. Wish I would have caught it at 19. I caught it at 17.5. I'm betting Tulane. The over-under is 51.5 currently.
A lot of people are on Tulane here. This is a very, very, very popular pick. Both, I think, square and sharp type of play. I haven't heard anybody that likes Auburn, really, which is sort of interesting. I don't have any action on here. Willie Fritz is very legit, Tulane's head coach, and he finally has a team, I think, that really fits what he's been trying to do offensively for a long time here. And they looked incredible against a good Florida International team. That was a blowout, but against a legit team. That Florida International is good. So I don't know. This is really interesting here. It seems like too many points. I don't think there's any question about that. Again, how is Auburn going to play after this amazing come-from-behind win? Probably going to be okay, but I think I'd err on the side of pretty much everybody else. I guess I would take the points here if I had to.
If I had to pick a side to lean, I guess, and I wouldn't feel confident. So.
Yeah, it just seems like, true freshman still getting his bearings. Obviously, he played in a big game to start, but, I think Tulane's a solid. I actually picked up Tulane at 40-1 to win the American just in case as a dark horse.
That's a good bet. I like the bet.
So, all right, let's move on to, do we want to move on to LSU Texas now, or do we want to save that for a little bit?
Whatever you're running the show here. So.
I know, but I feel like that's the big game.
All right, we'll save it.
We'll save it. All right, so I know you have a play on this one, so we'll move to this one. Miami at North Carolina. North Carolina coming off a big win against South Carolina. 2-9 last year, but they've got a high. Miami, we know what happened in week 0. God awful football, still found a way to almost win, but they found a way to cover. The line is currently Miami a 5-point road favorite, total 46.5. I also have a bet on this game as well, but I will let you start.
This is one of my favorite plays of the week. I am on the favorite here. Miami, I got it laying 3.5 or something like that. It doesn't really matter. Huge fan here. I think both teams showed.
How'd you catch 3.5?
That was the opening line, so I just got it right.
The opening line at -7.
Oh yeah, no, it's 3.5. That's what I had.
You?
My opening is like Tuesday for
that's
me.
Fair, yeah.
So maybe that's where it opened up. But I think we're a victim a little bit here of what we saw recently.
Recency bias.
And it's just North Carolina had a really, really nice win against a very good South Carolina team. They looked a lot better, I think, than expected. People kind of forget, how good of a coach Mac Brown has been throughout his career. He's a great recruiter. Recruiter more than anything else. He's, maybe an only okay coach, but recruiting-wise, top-notch. And, UNC will be in a lot more games than they have been in the last couple of years in the Larry Fedora time. So I think that's all good and well. But, however, Miami with the dumpster fire of a game that they had against Florida and all the turnovers and weirdness.
Clean that up a little bit.
Yeah, they've had time. They've had time to recover from this. They've had a bye already. I think this will go a lot better for them. Again, the talent discrepancy in a couple of spots I think is really important here for Miami. I think their offensive line is going to be able to move extremely well here. DJ Dallas is my key in this game. Along with maybe some quarterback runs, but I think that rushing the ball will be Miami's way to victory here, and I think that running the ball 30 to 40 times is not out of the realm of possibility. And I like Miami to win this game by double digits. I think they'll have a nice lead throughout the game and then really pull away at the end here. I just can't see North Carolina coming from behind. They just have a new quarterback and just a new system. They are not a good come from behind type of team here. So I really like Miami in this game a lot.
Yeah, give me the Hurricanes as well.
It's a consensus. I think we get a 10-point victory in this spot too.
Yeah.
I think you're talking about that high and that low and how they react, but Miami's had a little bit more time to react than UNC has. And UNC, South Carolina, although it's not the rivalry Clemson, South Carolina is, it's still a state rivalry. So It's a high-point game. All right, Utah State's laying 33 against Stony Brook. Is that enough? We get a crush here? That might be a free play right there.
A free play?
Yeah.
Why is it a free play?
I don't know if Stony Brook can score, and I feel like Utah State can put up 40, 45 points in this game.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know enough about Stony Brook. I haven't looked at this line at all. I have no clue. No idea.
I tried to throw a curveball, and you
It was a good effort. I just have no idea. I don't know. I'm not a fan of Utah State going forward. I don't think the Gary Anderson hire is the best for this team to become an elite team in a conference that is really freaking good. It is the best group of 5 conference, I think, pretty clearly, and I just don't like the move. So, I don't know. If that doesn't mean anything for Stony Brook, they could still blow out Stony Brook. No idea. Just don't like Utah State going forward.
Fair enough. Ruined my plans. I was kidding. All right, so let's go back to LSU, Texas. Spend a little time on this one. This has been an interesting game in terms of line movement. When you and I talked in week 0, we talked about this game potentially being Texas as a favorite, and it never opened there, but it has moved all the way up to LSU as 7-point favorite on the road against Texas, and 57.5 is the total right now. I'm not sure what to make of this. LSU is a fantastic team. Joe Burrow, ever since getting popped in the mouth in the Fiesta Bowl, again, it's only been a game and a half, but has looked great. And he looks like he may be shooting up draft boards with his performance lately. So I don't know what to make of Burrow. This will be key competition this year because Texas has a great defense. And Tom Herman as a home dog, how do you really bet against that?
Yeah, he's an underdog. He's 13-2 for his time with Houston and Texas. Yeah, I mean it's pretty amazing. The only problem here is I would normally, and I've been on that one for a little while too. But I mean this is a thunderous LSU team in all levels. This is a top 4 team in the nation, in my opinion. This is something that Texas is not going to see at all the rest of the year. This is, I think, clearly the best team they're going to face, which includes Oklahoma. And I just don't think that they're prepared at all for this. It's another team that's lost a couple of running backs already. It will just basically Keontae Ingram, and then I think a transfer or like an incoming freshman that has absolutely no experience in that sense. So I believe that it's going to have the Sam Ehlinger is going to need to carry a lot of the load, and it's just having to run the ball 10, 15, 20 times against an LSU type of defense. He's going to get beat the hell up. He didn't take one hit last week, and this week it's going to go from 0 to the world. And I would not be shocked if he doesn't make it out of this game. I think this is a really, really, really detrimental game for Texas, maybe for their season. It has the potential to go off the rails completely here. I think there's a decent chance they lose, by a field goal, anywhere from 3 to 6 points. I also think the other possibility is they lose by 30.
Wow.
LSU is just way better on both sides of the ball. This new, improved, high-flying offense that plays fast, that spreads the ball around. They have better talent in every aspect, every position, except for quarterback. I think Ehlinger is a better quarterback than Burrow, but besides that, this LSU team is just unbelievable, and I think they're significantly better. And my line is 10 for this game.
Even on the road, way?
Yeah. I actually like this for betting purposes. I'm glad it's on the road because if they're at home, they would be a double-digit favorite. So I think this makes it definitely bettable for LSU.
Token, do you think with a loss here and maybe a 30-point loss, do you think a close loss by either team takes them out of playoff contention?
No, but it minimizes their chances significantly.
I think both teams can still win their conference.
Yeah.
But, you're of a belief, Mr. Johnson, that Oklahoma's a better team. A 2-loss Texas team that maybe still plays for the Big 12 title, or maybe even wins the Big 12 title, but loses to Oklahoma and LSU. Big 12 might be the odd man out this year.
Yeah, they might be, especially if Utah runs the table or only
Notre Dame.
Yeah. I don't think Notre Dame will, but you never know.
Yeah, I think that Texas is.
I think Notre Dame got a blessing. I mean, USC's down now with no quarterback. Stanford, who knows how long Costello's going to be out. I think Notre Dame might have gotten a little bit of a bump in their schedule as far as quality. So, but yeah, I don't think that they're necessarily out because there's a lot of football, and I think Texas's big game that they have to win is against Oklahoma. And LSU obviously has Texas A&M, Bama, and Auburn. And I don't know if they catch Georgia this year. They catch Georgia last year.
I think they missed Georgia.
Yeah, so they still have to go through 3, the tough SEC West. It's tough to rule them out of the playoff, but I wonder if LSU goes down to Texas and to one of those teams, I gotta imagine they're done. But this loss specifically, no matter how much it's by, probably won't eliminate either team from contention. Like Ohio State losing by 4 touchdowns to Purdue, things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, if it's a relatively close game, probably within a touchdown. I think Case still, if they win out, they should get in.
I'm taking Herman. It's hard to really bet against that trend. I think Ellinger is going to use this game to put himself in Heisman conversation. That may be a bold prediction. I don't know. It doesn't really feel bold, but I think Texas gets the win at home or maybe a field goal loss. I'll take the Longhorns plus 6.5. Put it on the board.
There you go.
Give me Texas money line on this one.
Wow, you guys are. I'm shocked that I'm the only one that likes LSU in this game.
I don't dislike LSU. No disrespect to LSU at all.
I don't either, but
I see this game. If Texas is going to win, they're not blowing out LSU. Put it that way.
It'll be.
That's true. I agree with that.
Yeah. But if LSU wins, it could be a blowout.
Yeah.
Again, it's still. I mean, there's not going to be too much. I mean, can LSU, put any kind of home field advantage or split the home field? I mean, it's not that far. I mean, it's probably 4 or 5 hours from Austin to Baton Rouge. You gotta look that up for me. Correct research.
They've got a pretty strong home field advantage there. It's like 100,000 people, and it's really loud in Austin.
No, I agree, but I'm saying, sometimes you can, when the game's not that far, you can get a.
They'll have a bunch of people there. Oh, LSU will. They
I'm
travel.
Not sure they
well.
may have. They may have 4K, maybe. It depends on what the allotment was.
Sure. Oh, yeah, absolutely. They'll have more than 4,000.
100K stadium.
Just under 7 hours.
They'll have more than 4,000, I think. Oh, I think you're dead right about that. To
Houston, it's about 3.5, 4 hours.
No, the game's not in Houston.
Yeah, I know. But
So. To me,
but
the key to
LSU
me is,
plays Houston. We'll revisit
that. Yeah. No. So the key to me is that's baked into the line that it's because it's home, and I think that I don't care like that. This is one of those games that I think actually it does not matter in the least. I think that one team is significantly better than the other one. That's my only opinion.
I don't agree with that. I don't think significantly better is the case. I think worst case you're looking 23-21 LSU, and I don't see a blowout either way, and that may be the problem. I think there's a possibility for a blowout. I don't think it's going to come from Texas' side. So take that for what it's worth. All right, let's move on to a game that probably seemed a lot more interesting last Friday versus this upcoming, and that is Stanford USC. We have 0 QB1s in this contest. KJ Costello is out, and
he's even ruled out?
Yeah, as far as I know.
David Shaw said there was a distinct possibility he would play a couple days ago. So, interesting.
Well, if you find anything updated, then please let me know, because that would change a lot of things. But what kind of Costello would we get in that spot?
Yeah, I don't know. You're right. He's been ruled out. Okay.
I thought he was ruled out. Yeah.
Okay. No, my information was 2 days old, so I'm glad you said it. Good. Okay.
It's okay. I forgive you. So we have right now, as it stands, USC -3, 43.5. JT Daniels is the other quarterback for USC. The quarterback one for USC that's out for a torn meniscus and ACL.
Yeah, he's definitely gone for a while.
Yeah, he gone. So they have a true freshman going right now, and Clay Helton's on the hot seat, I would imagine. Came in this freshman Keydon Slovis, yes. Keydon Slovis, 6 of 8 for 57 with a pick against Fresno to finish off that game.
He was in deer in headlights. I watched that game fully. He did not look ready.
Yeah, well, that's probably pretty accurate.
It's just not criticizing the kid. Just
no, I know.
Look ready. Yeah.
So what do we have in terms of? So we have Keydon Clovis. What do we have in terms of for Stanford here?
Is a former
Davis Mills.
Yes. He was a former top. I think he was like number 2 or 3 overall quarterback recruit like 2 or 3 years ago, and he has been pretty much a bum, from what I understand.
Pretty much a bum.
Well, in regards to, I mean,
It was 7 of 14 for 81 yards and 2 lost fumbles against Northwestern last week.
yeah, he hasn't done very well at Stanford. He hasn't been able to move up the totem pole, even though he was one of the best recruits that Shaw has gotten on the offensive side of the ball, like in his coaching tenure. So yeah, it's kind of an unfortunate thing here with both of these quarterbacks out. My quick take on this is I give Kalani Sitake a lot of crap for being a really bad coach. This is the one that might be actually worse. I mean, Clay Helton is a disaster. I'm shocked he's still coaching this team. He won't be by the end of the season. Their schedule's too tough. They'll win like 6 games and they'll get rid of him pretty quickly. But I mean, he's a complete disaster in all regard. And then he's facing one of the better coaches, in college football. I think so, especially on field, especially. So to me, this game screams Stanford here. Having these 2 new quarterbacks does throw a little bit of a wrinkle. I'm of the belief that JT Daniels, this offense, the air raid offense being implemented here, was the main reason was because of JT Daniels and his skill set, and the fact that Slovis and now Jack Sears transferred out, I think is a really big problem for this team. I think this could very much blow up in their face. I have faith in Graham Harrell coming up with a really good game plan and doing what he can on that side of the ball. It's just this doesn't fit the skill set here. From what I understand of Slovis, I don't know much about him, but he's not that strong of a pocket passer. He's more of a dual threat kind of guy. So I don't know how it's going to work out long run. I just like Stanford in these type of games. They get up for this game too. This is a big deal for Stanford. I know they talk about it all the time, when they play these big time Southern California teams, because the recruiting is just so aggressive in this state, and Shaw wins some of these battles, and this is a big deal for Stanford. So I think that close win last week was also a thing. Northwestern is a real good ball club. I think Stanford has some room to run here. Whenever they get Costello back, which will matter, people are sleeping on Stanford a little bit this year. I think this is a good team. So I'm taking Stanford here. I haven't actually bet it yet. I was kind of waiting to see where the line would finish out. I think 3 is probably good enough. So
it is interesting that they're still a favorite here. I mean, it's got to be just the home cooking.
So. Yes, I would think so.
It's going to be a tough game for USC for sure. I do agree. I like Stanford in this one, even on the money line. So, no, it's probably not too much added value.
I have no play on the sides. I feel this game might be slow and stumpy, and that probably plays right into David Shaw's, mindset here. I'm going under 44. I've got it locked in. Probably going to bite me in the ass because both these teams with their backup quarterbacks are just going to light it up.
No,
but I'm taking the under.
Bet, yeah.
I'm taking the under 44. Yeah. And all right, let's move to Minnesota and Fresno. I put this on Twitter early in the week that Minnesota opening up as a 3-point favorite seems baity and trappy to me. But maybe,
for which side?
Just in general, it feels like they want you to take Fresno because Fresno's been kind of the trendy play. They
a lot of people from I have heard like Fresno.
Well, that plus Minnesota got a interesting scare from South Dakota State.
The Jackrabbits.
For those of you who weren't sure what their nickname was.
I love the Jackrabbits.
And Fresno, the score really wasn't indicative of the game against USC. They came back and made it a little bit more respectable of a game. And again, that was probably mostly because of JT Daniels' injury.
Yes, it was.
So that leads me to feel that because there's so much love on Fresno, I like the favorite. I like Minnesota in this game.
I actually do as well. I think the Golden Gophers prevail in this one, win by at least a touchdown.
Yeah, I figure it probably
might even
somewhere
be 2 touchdowns.
27-20 Minnesota.
Yeah.
And Jeff Tedford's 0-2.
Make it all 3. I think that 2 touchdowns is possible here.
2 consensuses in the whole show.
I bet this one early as well. I think Minnesota is very much the right play here. I think this is definitely the better team. Tedford's a great coach, but so is Fleck. This is not one of those where Tedford's going to get anything over anyone here. The team is down this year. Fresno is down this year. I don't think there's any question. And it's another one of those games I'm really happy is on the road. Because at home, Minnesota would be like a 7+ point favorite. It would be annoying. This, I love. I love this. This is not, there's no home field advantage here. Fresno does not. This is not a big deal at all. I really like Minnesota in this game.
All right, 2 consensus in the show. And the last game we're going to talk about, unless you guys have other action, is Oregon State at Hawaii. We have the midnight Eastern start.
Nice.
Can Hawaii go and drop 2 Pac-12 opponents at home 2 weeks? Well, the first 2 weeks of the season. They are a favorite here, 6.5. The total 78. Always going to be high with Hawaii football.
It's always hard to bet against the Warriors.
Yeah, but they're usually not always laying points.
Yeah.
And they're usually not always laying a touchdown almost. So
Yeah.
What do we look at this spot? Do we have Hawaii taking down 2 Pac-12 opponents to start the season?
Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned about the 2 Pac-12 opponents back-to-back here. I know they've kind of had a bye, but still, I'm not all that thrilled about that. I don't like either side here. It's not like I'm still a little bit salty of my Oregon State loss last week. I had them getting 14 against Oklahoma State, and I didn't like the going for 2 twice and not converting and losing by 16. But
somebody on Twitter had the same kind of mindset as you. They were just like the 2-point conversions were killing me.
Yeah, it was annoying. Again, I'm not like upset about it, whatever. Oklahoma State clearly the better team. It wasn't like it was a great bet. But I
understand.
I'm a little bit concerned about that. We'll see how Oregon State deals with going to Hawaii. That's always a big key. Is some teams sort of partied up a little bit. Other teams remain really focused. Oregon State's not one of those schools that goes there very often, so it can be a little bit difficult to sort of know what goes on there. But Jonathan Smith's a really intense dude, the coach, and my guess is that they're going to be more on the ready side than not. I don't know. I mean, I think the line's pretty good. Again, just the Pac-12 opponents back-to-back here. I would lean on taking the points. The total seems about right. I can't see Hawaii stopping Jamar Jefferson or really anybody running the ball, including Pierce for Oregon State, and vice versa. Hawaii is really, really phenomenal on offense. So I think it'll be a high-scoring, fun game. Fun game. If you can get this one on TV anywhere, this will be a fun one to finish the night with.
I got to imagine it's on TV somewhere.
Yeah.
I think it's pay-per-view, I think, just the Hawaii pay-per-view thing, unless one of the sports books near you, if you live in a place with those, buys that pay-per-view, I think, from what I understand.
Hawaii has pay-per-view football.
They sure do. All their games are pay-per-view.
Wow. Even on the island?
Yes. It's brutal. Yes. And tickets are very expensive, too. Yeah, people are not happy about that.
Well, I see tickets as low as $19.
That is rare. Way to be on it, Token. Nice. Wow.
That was great.
That was.
Best contribution to the show that Token's had in 2+ hours.
All
right,
so 2+ years.
Well, we haven't been on for 2+ years, but probably pretty
close.
Pretty close, yeah. We're actually coming up on 2 years. We started November of 2017. Any other late game action that either of you have? I don't have anything else, personally.
Got Cal getting a couple of touchdowns against Washington. I know they beat Washington last year. It's a little bit of concern, kind of a slight revenge type of game. But Cal getting 2 touchdowns with that good of a defense, I think, is too good to pass up.
All right, fair enough. That's going to wrap up Week 2 in college football betting for us with Vegas Squares. I want to thank the sponsors, 12-Ounce Sports Radio. We also want to thank Seat Giant. Use promo code 12-Ounce Sports for discount tickets to sporting events, concerts, and more. Also, Thrive Fantasy. Use promo code 12-Ounce Sports if you are a daily fantasy nut like we used to be when it was here in Nevada.
We would be.
We would be, totally, absolutely, yeah. So if you don't remember those, check out 12OunceSportsRadio.com and click on the sponsors page to look at all of the sponsors, because we do have some other sponsors on 12-Ounce that unfortunately are a conflict of interest with our show. So, hey, that being said, we want to thank Token Tony for making his long-awaited reappearance to the show.
My pleasure.
And Tony Johnson, and I am Aaron. We appreciate you listening. We will catch you on the next one. Good luck with your bets.